What is up, podcast family? It's Monday morning, and what better way to start the week than by dropping in with a fresh Secret Sessions episode? This particular Secret Sessions episode is brought to you by Hook It Protect. Hook It Protect is a new and exciting in-house brand here at Hook It Products. Hook It Protect is a range of frame and fork protection. It's universal, which means it fits any and all mountain bike frames and also every model of suspension fork. Each kit is made right here in Sheffield, and we have a wide variety of designs and sizes to suit your needs. So if you've just treated yourself to a new bike, or you just want to protect your existing pride and joy from those annoying rock strikes, uplift marks, and just general wear and tear, then head over and check out Hook It Protect. Of course, I am going to hit you with a deal too. Head over to Hook It Products, that's hktproducts.co.uk, enter the promo code podcast, and that will knock you 10% off anything and everything on our website. What's fairer than that? Okay, before we also get going with this episode, I want to tell you that our marathon is just under a month away. If you're not already aware, at the end of April, my friends and I were on a canoe trip which took a turn for the worst. In short, the RNLI, the Royal National Lifeboat Institute, saved my life. They dragged me out of Loch Ness with a helicopter after spending about 50 minutes in 5-degree water. I had hypothermia, and without the RNLI, there is no way on earth I was going to get out of that water. So my friends and I, we decided to run a marathon to help raise some money. We're not runners. It's been one hell of a journey getting up to marathon speed and distance, but I think I'm quietly confident. So on the 6th of October, my friends and I, we are going to run this marathon and try raise as much money as we possibly can. So if you've enjoyed one of these podcast episodes and you think it might be worth a couple of pounds, I don't want your money. I want to give it all to the RNLI. So if you scroll down into the show description, you will see a link. Hit the link and just donate what you can afford. Like I said, if it wasn't for services like this, a lot of people would probably lose their lives. I know I would have. So please give generously and help raise some money for this incredible volunteer service. Okay, guys. Today's guest is Matt Wragg. You may or may have not have seen that towards the start of this month, there was a post on Pinkbike, and it was called "The Day I Lost Control of My Brain," and it was written by Matt Wragg. It hit home with me. I'm not gonna lie. Matt talked at length about his battles with mental health and anxiety and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get Matt on the podcast to chat about it a little bit more. So this episode goes deep. I'll warn you, it goes really deep. But I want to say, before I get going with this episode, a massive thank you to Matt for coming on the podcast. He was a little bit unsure at first, but for being so open and talking about his career, a little bit more about what led to him having some mental health problems and what he's done to overcome them. So, like I said, the article really hit home with me, and I think it does as well with a lot of our listeners. It is important, and one of the things he said in the article, to talk about this stuff. So this is a long episode. We do talk at length about his career in photography, working for Pinkbike, but then we also do get into some mental health stuff. So please enjoy this episode. This was a great one for me to record. It was super organic. We had a really fun chat, and I'm really, really proud of this conversation and for Matt's efforts and his honesty. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Odub, a little bit of Zeb, and then we're going to drop straight in with this episode with Matt Wragg. Enjoy and have a great rest of your week.
Welcome to the Hook It podcast, endorsed by @Odub_23. Add me, tag me. Follow me. Please follow me.
I was a young boy, growing old. So in the world, I did what I was told. Tell me once, twice, 3 times, a little lady. I'll follow the rainbow to the party and go dig, 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 a hole in the soul.
Quick, just what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had porridge.
What did you have on it?
I had it with chia seeds, almonds, cranberries, raisins, red berries, and banana.
Jeez, you bitched it up.
It's very, very little porridge, lots of everything. Porridge, lots of everything else. I'm trying to kind of limit the complex carbs because I'm trying to lose a bit of weight at the moment because I'm fat as fuck from the antidepressants.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, so I am.
Amazing. All right, so let me more officially welcome you to the podcast, Matt. So thank you for doing this. I know I've been very transparent. When I read your recent article on Pinkbike, I knew that I just wanted to sit and talk to you, whether I had this platform or not. Obviously, I've come across your name quite a lot in various mountain bike circles through various things. So when I read the article, it made me instantly, and I did literally reach straight out to you and go, do you just want to have a sit in a chat? Not as a therapist or anything like that, but just to sit.
You're not going to send me an invoice at the end.
No, there's not going to be a bill, mate, for this one. So, like I say, I think what you did was extremely brave. And, you know, no doubt you've been told that by numerous people and you've probably seen it in the comments and stuff like that. But the biggest thing was, I think someone said it in the comments, that people just need to talk more. And I think that is, the ethos of this podcast as well. It's about just sitting and chatting, and whatever comes up, comes up. We're not going to push anything, but it's nice just to sit and chat to you, man, and see about your career. We've got probably some quite similar stories, I think, which no doubt we can exchange. But yeah, I think I just wanted to reach out because I thought what you did was super brave, and it will have helped a lot of people going through similar stuff as well. So,
well, thanks. You're too kind, I think.
Maybe I am, mate. Maybe I am. Who knows? I've been told that a few times in my life. But hey ho, that's part of it, isn't it? So before we get into some of the, maybe the heavier stuff or whatever, and some of the stuff I really want to talk to you about, let's just if it's okay, I want to rewind a little bit and sort of figure out how you ended up doing what you do for a living. Because again, for most people listening, so you're an editor at large for Pinkbike, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken a bit of a step back from that this year, but I've been involved with Pinkbike since, I think about 2011 as when I really started doing some stuff for them. So, right. I've been there a few years now.
Yeah. And Pinkbike, I mean, it's arguably the go-to mountain bike website these days, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't back then.
No.
The first question when I told people I was working for Pinkbike, the first question they usually asked me was, "Are they paying you?"
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was. I mean, the thing I always loved about Pinkbike is it's a very. This sounds a bit wanky said it now. I listen to words out loud, but it's very organic.
Yeah.
It wasn't started off with an idea or a grand plan. It's some mates making a site for them and their mates.
Right.
There was never. I mean, I don't know. I don't know Wragg that well, so I might be wrong saying this, but I don't think there was ever a grand scheme. It just kind of happened and kept growing, and just kind of happened. Because I think people forget that Pinkbike's genuinely independent.
Yeah, for sure. No, it is for sure. And that's one thing that I always, like to talk to people about, is that I think a lot of people think there's probably a lot of, don't get me wrong, there's a little bit of brown nosing in the bike industry, but there's not as much sort of paid sort of, you don't pay for a good bike review really or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, it's independent sort of thing.
Yeah. No, I see the same comments and, I just, having been with them for those years, I've seen, it just doesn't really happen. If anything, just because in the past we were never organised enough for that kind of shit. It's changed. Pinkbike's a lot more organised now, but now it's more organised. There's structure, so it can't happen. So
right. Yeah. So your day-to-day task then at the moment, what do you do?
I'm kind of just starting to get back into work, but one of the things that kind of came out of this last year is I've realised I've got to focus because all the way through my life, I just get bored. You know, I mean, I used to do contracting in London. I used to do communications for like healthcare organisations.
Okay.
It was about as interesting as it sounds, but
I'm sure it was a little bit more interesting than it sounds.
No,
really. It wasn't, was it?
It paid well. And when I was 25, I thought that I was 25 and earning a couple £100 a day to make shit up as I went along.
Wow. Where was that? In London?
Yeah, I moved to London. To move to London 2007, and because I remember getting offered the job and they were paying me like I think it was £18 an hour or something. And I went to this local authority and they didn't cap my hours. So I worked out if I didn't take lunch and worked 10 hours a day, I could take home 40 grand in my first year. And when the year before I'd taken home like 10 or 15 grand, I was like, yes. But if I'm honest, like I fucking hated London.
Really?
And really genuinely quite deeply miserable there. And it's like, and it made me realise, because, I was doing all the things that I thought success probably was. I was working in the city, I was buying suits, earning good money, it's what I had this vague idea that maybe this was what success was supposed to be, and it just made me fucking miserable. I remember feeling trapped by that place. Like I had a job where I was working from home, and if you're a bit slack and you're up to date on your work, you can maybe sneak out to work in the afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I remember having this realization that even though it's 3 o'clock, if I got in the car then, I was going to before I get to Chicksands to go and ride my bike, I was going to get stuck in a traffic jam, wouldn't get to Chicksands till dark, then wouldn't get back home till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it was like, for me, it was genuinely quite suffocating. And like, I realised all I really wanted to do was ride my bike. So I just ended up being very miserable, basically.
I can see that. I mean, I'm definitely probably similar to you. I'm quite a country lad. I've grown up out in the middle of nowhere in the Peak District all my life, and as soon as I get into those situations, especially London, actually I have to go to London quite a bit for work, and I'll go in and I try my best to get everything done in 3 to 4 days and get the hell out of there, because it can be quite enjoyable for the first day or two, eating nice food, travelling around on the thing, whatever, but then you just think, nah, I need to get out. I don't like the people, basically, and the hustle and bustle.
Well, I mean, when I went there, I thought it's. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a country lad. Like I don't know. I never really thought about it when I was younger, but I was more. I mean, sort of 18, 19. I was mainly into going to clubs and taking handfuls of pills. Basically, that was my. That was kind of the main thing when I was about 18.
Right.
And so.
So where did you grow up? Where are you from?
I grew up in Castle Donington, which is an absolute shit tip for mountain biking. It was like. There's no hills, no forests, so we just all rode street trials, and I'm absolutely awful at it. And what made it even worse is my younger brother was really fucking talented at it.
Right.
Like he was. I don't know if he actually ever won at a national level, but he says like he got to the point where he knew he could win at a national level, then he got bored and stopped.
Amazing.
I think he stopped before he got. I think he stopped in juniors. He never got out of that, so it's not like. Yeah. He was good.
Really?
And I was shit. I remember doing a Yorkshire trial, and like, my brother was around there, angry that he wasn't winning, and I'm there coming around last in the novice category with wet feet in the middle of a stream bed. It's like
that pretty much sums up trials for me and my experiences with it as well. I did one on a motorbike not long ago, and it was awful. Like I'd like to think I'm relatively competent at riding a motorcycle, but then I'd never ridden a trials motorcycle before. And it was like, it's like I'd never ridden a bike before in my entire life. I've never known anything as difficult ever. And it was miserable and wet and it's slow and just horrible, dude. So yeah, I feel you for that.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Castle Donington. So when did you first discover mountain biking, I guess? I mean,
we always kind of had bikes. Like, I remember getting like, this like rally, I think it was 10 speed when I was like 11, 12 years old. But then the first kind of, the one I always kind of count as the real one was when I was about 15. I got a Diamondback Apex from Supercycles in Nottingham.
Really? Classic. Classic.
It was, it was, so for me, and that was kind of the first proper bike.
Yeah.
And then it's, but I with university and the clubbing and that, I kind of didn't do much of it through my sort of early 20s. Like I wasn't, I do a bit here and there, and like I had a friend from uni who would occasionally take me to Cannock Chase, and I remember rattling down Cannock Chase on my old Sonic DS1. And
oh, sick. Dude, I used to lust for one of those when I was younger, DS1.
I got to get my DS1. I don't know if you'd know Tracy Made Cycles in Long Eaton. I guess they're gone now.
Yeah, I'm not aware of them. No.
They were never really a bit. I think more like in a rally dealership.
Okay.
But I got a job there as a Saturday lad, paying me £12 a day to go with the Saturday lad. And like the big privilege from that is I got to put a trade order in. So I got an Sonic DS1 at trade price when I was like 16, 17. And I still remember like walking across the Long Eaton town centre with like £200 in my back pocket, terrified to have this much money on me in one go. That bike stayed with me till 2008.
Did it really?
Yeah, it probably.
They're bomb-proof though. Those are Sonic DS1s, I think.
The only reason it went is my friend convinced me that by 10 years old, the aluminium fatigue, the amount of times I smashed it into stuff, probably meant it was due to have a catastrophic failure. So
yeah, it got out before it killed you.
Yeah, but no, that thing was amazing. That was
awesome.
Yes. Let's say, like, I kind of stepped away from the sport then. It was, I do a bit, but it was, it was just here and there. It wasn't like a big deal for me. It was only when I got out of uni, and I remember like my friend who used to take me downhill and got a job in a bike shop, and I split up with my girlfriend, and it was quite, my first kind of real serious relationship at like 23, I think, and it was like, at that age, you kind of split up with someone, you're kind of a bit lost, and it's like, well, what do I want to do? And my friend managed to convince me to buy like a giant Faith on finance from that bike shop, and it was kind of, it's like the first time I'd ever had a full suspension bike, and we went downhill properly, and having the full that ridiculous 661 body armor and like the big kind of
the shuttle suit.
Yes, but at the time it was exactly what I needed actually. But it coincided with about the time I went to London. So just as I realised that like riding bikes is actually where I'm truly happy, I went to go and live somewhere where you can't do that.
Got you. Yeah. So, okay. And what was that for then? Just chasing the career and the money, and you thought that's what you needed, or what?
I mean, how do I best describe it? Like I kind of drifted through life when I was younger. Like I was a shit at school. Like I never had to try at school, and I did really well. Like,
okay.
I don't know.
Oh, I hate those people, man. I hate those people.
Most people at school hated me for it. Yeah, that's about, But it's I just kind of drifted through though. I was just kind of good at the school stuff, and I didn't really think. And I remember like in my last year of uni, I had to go and see the counsellor because I got to my last year of uni, and they're like, well, what are you going to do afterwards? Oh shit, I need to do something now. Because I just had this nebulous idea that I'd finished uni and something had happened. I'd never actually taken the time to think it through. I'd never like. It's weird, like considering like now, like I spend with the anxiety, I kind of over obsess about so much that when I was younger, I was just unplanned and unfocused, and it just it just seemed like the thing to do at the time.
It's strange when you think back that you have to have an idea in your brain of what you want to do. I mean, I've been quite critical of the school system, I think, as long as I've been alive, that I don't believe that you're clever just because you can study for a test and stuff like that. And I hated school. I did it. I never really took time off when you shouldn't do. We call it skiving here. There's people listening all over the world, or bunking or whatever you want to call it. I never did anything like that because I knew that if my parents found out, they'd probably throw me on the streets or whatever. But, I just got through it. I just did what you had, like the minimum effort all the time, and then I just wanted to get out of there and go, to be honest, go ride bikes or do whatever.
Yeah.
So then I remember getting to like 16, and you have this option to just leave. Yeah. And it's like someone's rolled out the red carpet on your life. It's like, oh, if you don't want to come here ever again, you can just leave. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, all right, I am out of here. Done. So I never really, looking back, I probably would have enjoyed the university thing as well. I think it's weird because as you get a little bit older, you start enjoying learning more. And I think you go to school for that length of time, you're just over it. And I was definitely, dude. I was just like, I am done. I just want out. I want to go ride bikes, travel the world, whatever. Whereas now, you know, I'm obsessed with learning about stuff, podcast stuff, or whatever. You know, I listen to and read books and whatever. And I kind of wish that I had that a little bit more when I was younger, that I'd have focused on it, you know.
Well, but I mean, that's my, you know, I'm coming from a bit of a different angle, I guess, because like, you know, I kind of always knew I was going to go to university. Don't really know why, but I just, you know, it was what I was going to go and do. You know, it was. But then I think it's something that I realised actually going through it this last year, and I realised in this last year because, you know, part of the therapy is you go back to day one, and you know, you have to go back through your life from childhood and work forwards to sort of understand where you've learned the behaviours.
Okay.
And one of the things that's not entirely related, but it came up for me, is that, well, shit, you know, I found something now that I love doing that much that I work myself into you know, completely fucking myself over. And shit, you know, well, what if someone, you know, 17, 18 and taken the time to help me actually find something I was into? What could I have done by now? You know,
100%, yeah.
You know, and it's, yeah, you know, I you know, I did English at university because I was getting A's in my classes at English and I was good at it. But why the fuck did I do an English lecture? You know, okay, I guess I'm partly a writer now, but I remember going to that career service at university and they're like, you can be an academic, which I was like, no, that looks like slow death. You can be a teacher, which is, the world's a better place that I'm not teaching kids. You can be a journalist, which I like the sound of, or you can work in PR. And so I remember looking at I remember looking how much, you know, how to get into journalism. And you know, the advice was you have to go to London and do 2 years unpaid internship just to get a foot in the door to do like proper journalism. And, you know, I don't come from a family where that's an option for me.
Right,
I had debt, you know, I had debts to pay, I had a credit card to clear, you know, I needed to go and earn something. So I just, you know, that's kind of how I ended up doing communication, because it's like of the 4 things I said in my careers in the careers booklet at my university, it's the only one that didn't seem horrendous. I mean, I'd never even heard of PR before.
Right. Again, coming at it from a slightly different angle again, I am also, though, a firm believer that you sort of know roughly what you're going to end up doing when you're quite young. Do you disagree?
With that.
Really? You see, for me, I was obsessed when I was a kid, and this is really sad, about distribution.
Yeah.
And it wasn't up until, well, so that's one angle, but then it wasn't up until a couple of years ago, actually, that the podcast started doing quite well, and I was having a conversation with my mum about it. You know, I was sort of telling her a few rough stats and stuff like that, and she was like, isn't it weird that when you were, when do you do work experience? Is it like 13, 14? Something like that. She's like, oh, when you wanted to do work experience, you wanted to go and work at a radio station. And I'd totally forgot about that. But anyway, the distribution side of it, I was obsessed with studying magazines and working out what brands came from what company and then calling them up to try and get stickers and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I was obsessed with that as a kid. And it's weird that now I, in a way, do both of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's different for everyone, I guess. Because for me, I love photography. And, you know, I mean, I'd never thought about it till I had to start doing it for a job.
Right.
It was a complete, you know, I kind of feel, I think it's come back to the half the reason why I push myself so hard is that you know, I just kind of stumbled into it. And I started doing it because I had to do it. Because it's because when I started doing work for Pinkbike, there was no one else around to take the photos. I wanted to be a writer.
Yeah.
You know, I'd liked writing for, you know, when I was at university, I wanted to be a writer. And so, you know, I mean, I used to do bits for Southern Downhill and Descent World in the UK.
Okay.
And then when I started doing stuff for Pinkbike, I was like, right, I'm going to get a photographer, we're going to do big stuff. And then they told me what the budgets were, and okay, we don't have any money to do this. And so, you know, I was living in a rural bit of Italy at that time, and it's well, if I want to do something, I'm going to have to do it myself. And so then from there, you know, it's bought a camera, bought a few lenses, and it kind of stumbled into this thing that I feel like it's of all the things I do, I think it's what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing.
Right, it's like a natural calling, yeah. I
mean, I don't know, it just, it came easily to me, I guess, and I always felt a bit guilty about that. Like, I always felt it's that whole kind of imposter syndrome thing that, like, it's like, well, shit, because you see people striving to do it, and I just could do it, and there's,
right.
And you kind of, for me, there was inherent guilt in that. I'm like, well, shit, well, maybe this, maybe it's all going to fall apart because it's not a real thing because it didn't, I don't know.
100%. No, I can totally see what you're saying with that. And again, I've been in a very similar situation where you feel like maybe as soon as you take your foot off the gas, someone's going to steal your thunder, and you're just going to be there going, I shouldn't have stopped for those few hours. You can probably get it down to that length of time sometimes. I've been like, if I'd have slept that night, I wouldn't have this company or this business or this job. Yeah, I can feel you. Yeah,
for sure. Like, I've had to come to terms with that. I'm pathologically competitive.
Yeah.
And it's so, if I'm going to do something, I want to win, basically, which is not always very healthy, to be honest.
just to rewind again a little bit then. So you're working in London. No, it's cool, man. It's totally fine. It's cool. We just bash around a little bit. So you're working in London, not really that happy. What else were you doing in London which sort of got you away from your job, if anything?
Just riding was my escape.
Right.
Like, I remember, I think it was like the last or the second to last year of the Dragons, and we went to go and race. Went to go and do my first downhill races. Okay. And I think it was, I think it must have been Mount Ash and Abercarn that year were the two we did. Mm-hmm. And I, for where I lived, because I lived right the way out on the arse end of East London, just basically lived out on the sewage, out by the sewage works at the end of the DLR, the Docklands Light Railway. So it's like,
okay,
because with London Transport, it's like all the zones.
Yeah. So
you've got Zone 1 is the centre, Zone 2 is suburbs, Zone 3 is the ghetto. So I was in Zone 6.
Zone 3 is the ghetto. Amazing. Okay.
I was out in Zone 6,
okay,
which is just it's basically the arse end of the world as far as London's concerned.
So is that as far south almost? Is that how it works on the tube? I'm not.
No, I was east. It was okay. Because it's kind of circular going outwards, and I was basically literally on the north bank of the Thames.
Okay, right.
Like right on the edge of the kind of the main public transport system. And so I went to do the races. We did 5 or 6 weekends running down in Wales, and so to do those days on the Sunday morning, I'd leave home at about 5 a.m. and I'd pick my mate up in Bristol Station because he was unemployed, but he didn't have a car. So he'd take the train down to Bristol from Birmingham. Then we'd drive to, either... You couldn't do Abercarn before, but I remember Mount Ash we did a couple of weekends before, and I think we did a Cumcarn weekend as well around then to kind of...
Right.
And so, then we'd go and push the bikes up all day because there's no organised uplift. So you'd go and push the bikes up all day. There's 40... I had a giant faith with... I had a totem by then. I got rid of before I had shivers, so it was about £50 this shivers on. But I'd gone down to a totem by that point, so it's a light £45 at that point. Yeah. We go and push the bikes up until we were just physically too fucked to ride anymore. Yeah. And then I'd drive 5 hours back to London, and
jeez.
And I remember this thing I don't remember because I'd reach about the M25 on the other side of London, which is about an hour and a half from home. Mm. And I wouldn't basically know how I'd got home. Looking back, it's how I was driving this little 1 litre Citroen Saxo, how the hell something terrible didn't happen to me driving like that, that fatigue, that long, that rapid. And this is on top of the period where I was earning the hourly rate at work. So, I was working, I think it was only maybe 50 odd hours a week, but it was no lunch break, no breaks. It was just 50 hours solid. And then maybe the gym once or twice a week and then do that on a Sunday. And I remember the weekend after I got to the race and I was so dead that I think if you look me up on Roots and Rain, I think I came second to last that weekend. It was
not your proudest moment. But it's what we used to do, man. It's, again, similar. It's what you used to do. You just get out and get after it.
Yeah. And the thing, I think the big moment for me was always when you cross the Severn Bridge and you start to go over, that bit, you kind of go up the rise after Severn Bridge and you come, and it opens out into that big valley.
Yeah.
And I've never lived in Wales, but I remember having this feeling as I came over that crest that I was coming home. Like, I felt like I was where I was supposed to be.
Nice.
And it's a weird feeling. Like, looking back, it makes sense now that really I should have been living in the mountains and not living in central London. But at the time, like, it was just this incongruous feeling that really stood out. And like, it was the same every time. It's just that feeling of coming home. And that was,
Yeah. So what was London life like, though, other than getting out as often as you could? Like, the work schedule sounds hectic. Did you have many friends there when you moved there, or were you just a little bit isolated?
I ended up I had most of my university friends ended up moving down there. But to be honest, like, the way it all worked with the fatigue and everything, like, it's, you're doing like an hour's commute. So if you're in the office, you want to be in the office for 8, so you're leaving home at 7 in the morning, and then you're getting home at, say, 7 in the evening. By the time you've eaten, it's like 8:30, and it's like, well, I'm knackered now.
Yeah.
So it's like, get home, eat, and I don't know, like, I was drinking like a bastard just every evening. Like, I remember
so many people do, though, that live in London, because it's almost like, I'm sure there's other things to do, but it's like, that is like the thing that people do. They leave the office and go for a beer, and there's many pubs that you almost can't avoid it. You know what I mean? Well,
the problem was, like, I was working in local authorities and there was no one there I really connected. They're not people I'd hang around with. Yeah. So I just come home. I mean, basically, I'd come home and drink a bottle of wine on my own every night.
Right.
And I do that 7 nights a week.
Wow.
That was, I remember having a girl I was dating over, and she sort of she looked under my kitchen shelf and there's this big line of red wine. She's like, shit, how many people have you had over? Oh, that's just 2 weeks since I did the rubbish. So it was, Yeah. It was never problem drinking exactly, like, it was always just, it was in the evening, but that's what I did every evening.
Just to try and de-stress as well a little bit. And
well, looking back, I had no tools, I had no escape. It was basically work, sleep, and riding bikes on the weekend. But as good as riding bikes on the weekend is, it doesn't carry you through the next 7 days. It's not,
Yeah.
And it was just, some of it I brought it on myself and made myself miserable, but a lot of it as well, like, for me, that lifestyle, I don't know, I always found London very difficult to do stuff. I mean, because things like, everything you have to go and do is like an hour and a half away. And
yeah.
Like,
I just think, I can't be arsed. I can sit in the house, glass of wine,
Well, I lived in Birmingham before, and in Birmingham you get everywhere in about half an hour. And so it's fine, you jump in the car, jump on the bus, jump on a bike, and you can go and do stuff. And it's, for me, like, the scale of Birmingham was quite good. I was much happier living in Birmingham. I had a much better social life, whereas London, I just, I really didn't make the most of living in London. It was, I just basically ended up shutting myself away, which, maybe it's my fault I ended up being miserable, but for me, it just didn't work. It didn't make sense, basically.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me as well. Just from the odd time I've been down there, and my girlfriend's best friend used to live in London actually as well, and we used to go down and visit, and it was like you said, man, it was the same thing almost, rinse and repeat. It was like, she'd get up, go to work, we'd go do like a touristy day or whatever, and then it'd be like, oh, I'll meet you in the pub, and then that then means you get home at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and then it was rinse and repeat the next day.
Yeah.
And that just seemed to be just London culture. It's just like, finish work, go for a beer, and I don't know, like, we sound like quite similar people in that respect. Probably living in London doesn't suit us, but some people really embrace it and they love that lifestyle. So, Oh
yeah, no, I mean, as much as I hate the place, I've always acknowledged that, for some people it's the best place in the world. And,
yeah.
If that's you, fair play, but you'd have to pay me a lot of money to get me back into London.
Yeah, same. So what was the ultimate decision which made you leave London? What happened and how come?
Because the thing was that I was job hunting, but couldn't, somehow I was applying for all these jobs outside London, nothing was coming back, basically. Like, I don't know why, and look, there's no point, basically I was applying for a place like Bristol, because I thought Bristol would be, it's close to somewhere I want to be, there's enough city there.
Yeah. But
I think the fact was that you have to be there to get a job there, really.
Okay.
And the way it tended to work with the recruitment consultants is they'd ultra specialise you very quickly it was easy to make money off you that way.
Right.
So I remember, like, I found like a finance, like I was doing internal communications in a healthcare organisation, and I found an internal communications job in a banking organisation in Bristol. So I was like, sweet, that looks, I could do everything on that job sheet. That looks perfect. And they're just like, no, you need banking experience. Unless you've got banking, finance sector experience, we won't even look at your CV. And it's, it's this hyper specialisation that, anyway, it's, So I was struggling. So I took a contract that was supposed to be working from home, which admittedly in the beginning left me even more isolated and miserable because I was working 50 hours a week. I was 50 hours a week shut away in my little apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't.
Oh, you stayed in London as well?
Well, I was supposed to be able to move, but the problem was there was supposed to be a trial period. And then once, because the thing is, if you leave, you've got to take a housing contract, so you've got to sign a minimum 6 months or whatever, haven't you?
Yeah.
And so, it's a big risk to go to a new city when you've only got like a month of guaranteed work. So I was supposed to do the trial period, which is like 3 or 6 months in this job, and then they agreed I'd move away from London, and that was the plan.
Okay.
And fortunately, well, didn't feel like it at the time, but that job went to shit. Basically, I remember I sat down with my manager,
right?
Because we were doing these like little launch projects, these like e-learning tools for doctors and stuff. It was, and she sits down and she says, "I'd like you to add more value to your projects." And I was like, I don't know what you mean. I'd like you to add more value. And she just kept repeating it. I was saying, like, I don't know what you're asking me for. And she's like, and then after about a minute or two of this, she's like, I need you to come up with some different ideas. Oh, why didn't you say, And it was
what's this corporate lingo for? We don't need it.
But it's at that point you realise that, this isn't a relationship that's going to work.
No, not at all. No.
And so that kind of, and so I ended up back at my parents then, because it was like, what do you do? I didn't want to be in London. I didn't have a job, so I was like, I'd save some money though, and I was thinking, and my original plan was I was going to go and use the money I saved to get myself like a 6-month lease in Bristol, and go and start up again there, and that But then you start looking, it's like, well, if I've got 6 months to live somewhere, why would I go and live in a city? Why don't I go and live in North Wales?
Yeah. Somewhere beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. It's why not?
Yeah.
And then I got talking to my friend, and I kind of the way I don't know. He told me if this is how it happened, or not, but I remember we got talking about New Zealand,
right?
And he sort of said, "Oh, you wouldn't go and do that." So I was like, "Right, I'll fucking show you, mate." And so I booked a flight to New Zealand.
Right, really? Right. So you quit your job, moved back to your folks, bought a ticket to New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean,
perfect.
Looking back, like I landed in. Because I'd heard about Queenstown, so I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good place.
And what sort of timescale are we working with now? Like 2000 what?
This is 2000. Like I quit that job. I didn't quit. I got fired from that job about this time of the year in 2009.
Okay.
And I left on 5th of November.
Wow.
So
amazing, quick turnaround.
I mean, looking back, it's like I don't think I'd dare do it these days, because I just went. I booked myself a week in a hostel to find myself somewhere to live. I had absolutely no idea about what really was actually in Queenstown. I'd heard it was a good place to ride mountain bikes. I was like, right, built myself up a Common South Supreme 160, which was just the most stupid bike in the world. It's like all the downsides of a downhill bike without the long travels. And I just went, and I ended up staying out there like 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
Then I went on to Whistler, like I was supposed to go. So I started hanging around one of the guys who was a partner in Ticket to Ride in Whistler.
Okay.
And I was because I was skint and I had time, so I started cooking a lot.
Right.
So because if you've got time and not much money, you can still eat really well if you make everything from scratch.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of that, and it was. I've always cooked, and it was a lot of fun. So he offered me a job as a cook in Whistler.
No way.
It's like, sweet, I'll go and do that. Why not?
Yeah.
But then we went with on the way out. We stopped off in the US and like we did like a week or two touring around the US. And the idea was to go and drive. We then drive up to Whistler, but we went to Sea Otter. Then we went to like Troy Lee, and then we went out into the deserts. We went to like Vegas, then went out to Moab.
Oh wow!
And on my first run down Porcupine Rim, there was this like, it's not always the most exciting trail. There's just like big kind of open pistes, and they had these rocks in. So I was kind of amusing myself by sort of hitting the first rock as like a kicker and just jumping into the rocks, which worked well until I landed in a big pile of rocks and broke my scaphoid.
Oh no way!
And, like, so that then got up to Whistler and like they said, the doctors couldn't tell me if I needed pinning or not, so I had to fly home again.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's a bit of a bummer.
It was what it was.
Mate, it's all a learning experience, isn't it? But yeah.
Well, coming home seemed the right thing. I suddenly, I landed a really good job when I got back.
Oh, so the plan wasn't to like come back to the UK, then go back out there. You just came back, and it was.
I thought I might, but then I landed a really good job, and the guy. I still have a small lingering resentment to the guy at Ticket to Ride who wasn't keen on helping me kind of get back out. So anyway, wasn't. Anyway, it wasn't feasible basically. I'd spent all my money because in New Zealand they didn't really work. I did a few days like work on a building site, and I worked as an extra on a Bollywood film set for a day, and But
I would expect you to say that.
But basically, what I did is I drank tea, looked at the mountains, and pushed my bicycle up because this was before the Skyline lift opened. So
I was just going to say.
Just go and push our bikes up there like 3 or 4 times a day, and it was blissful to be honest. But then I didn't have much in the way of savings left after all that.
And what's crazy too is that's sort of like before mainstream sort of social media, so it literally just word of mouth. Like, this place looks cool, I'll go there.
I think Seb Kemp had been writing about it for Dirt. I think that was,
So that was the inspiration.
It was as good of idea as any. Really,
it's crazy, yeah, for sure.
Because I think it was out there. The season I was out there is when Stevie Smith and G. Atherton came out to film Follow Me, because a bunch of my mates were kind of involved in that. And so, and like I was blogging for Southern Downhill at the time as well. Like I did a bunch of like NZ diaries for Southern Downhill.
Right. I'll have to try to dig those up.
They don't really exist. Like they basically nuked the whole back end of the site.
Oh right. Okay. All right.
It was. It was good, but then coming back to the UK, I landed a really good job. Like, I ended up back at my parents because it was a contract again.
Okay.
And so I didn't want to take on a housing contract. I'm not going to sign a year commitment when I've got a 6-month job. So same situation. And it was actually, to be honest, a really good job. Like there was a lot of freedom in it, and I found a spot where I go and ride bikes at lunch. So because I was working from home, there was a lot of freedom in how you structure your day. So like, I'd wake up at 6 and start work by 7. Then I'd go running at 8 or 9, come back, work through. But then if I wanted, I could take a long lunch and go and ride the mountain bike for an hour, or, it really made a lot, in the end I was working like end to end 12 to 15 hours a day, but it wasn't that much work. So, you could fit on all these little things that actually made it quite fun.
Broke it up,
But the problem was like my kind of sector, like I got pigeonholed in like the kind of the health bit. It was 2010, so like the financial crash was starting to catch up at that point.
Okay.
And there's just they were saying well we can pay you half. When that job ended, they're like well we can pay you half as much money, but you've got to come back to central London.
I bet that one didn't take much thinking about, did it?
No.
No,
it wasn't ideal.
No.
So, and I remember sitting there like it was, I think it was around, my last day of that job was Christmas Eve, so my Christmas present was unemployment.
Oh, God.
And I remember a few days later sitting there, I was like 28, and I'm like, right, I'm 28 years old, so I'm nearly 30.
Yeah.
I've just split up with my girlfriend, I've got no job, and I'm living at home with my parents. I'm like, this isn't really what it was supposed to be. This isn't how life's supposed to go, is it?
Well, no, but again, there's a lot of emphasis on that, isn't there, from society of like, by this age, you should have this, and this. And it's pretty much all bullshit, let's be brutally honest. I think so anyway. I've never lived my life of trying to be, I'm 30, this needs to happen, or,
Yes and no, but then you are, I think...
There is definitely time limitations on stuff.
Well, more that I think you're supposed to progress in life. You're not, I think, you're supposed to keep going forwards and evolving and growing, and, ending up back at your parents at nearly 30 felt like I wasn't evolving and growing. I felt like I was kind of like, okay, I was here when I was, this is basically where I was when I was 18.
Yeah. To be honest, man, I moved back in with mine when I was around that sort of age as well. And you are right, it definitely does make you feel, not like you failed, but like you say, you shouldn't be there at that age. You should be out doing your own thing. And it's also probably depends on how your parents live as well. I mean, if they've got a massive house somewhere and you're not really a burden, or they live in a one-bedroom semi-detached house somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I actually don't think it's a bad thing to see it as failure, because I think that's good impetus to go and do the next thing. You're 100%, like, shit.
Yeah.
Because if that's the thing, like, if you get content with not progressing and not evolving, then I think it's very easy to kind of, because I wasn't paying rent, I had meals cooked for me. There's for a certain type of person, I'd imagine it'd be quite comfortable life to kind of just relax into, and then suddenly wake up at 40 and realise you're that guy.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, true. It's true. But I don't know, like you say, sometimes you need that, and you're also really lucky that you have that to fall back on as well, isn't it? But then, maybe you do need that sometimes to go, right, this isn't what I want in life. I need to refocus and crack on with something different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly grateful to my parents that I think, there was no pressure from them to do it, but they kind of relied on me knowing internally that I had to do that. But it was that, when I needed it, I could do that.
Yeah.
And that's,
I had the full bailout though. I literally couldn't afford to pay rent. I had nothing to my name, and I just had to move back in. And like you say, it's probably quite situation dependent, isn't it? It's like, are you going in there with your bags like because you've been kicked out of your house, or are you going there because you just need a bit of a stopgap?
Yeah, I think it's just we're quite lucky to have the option to fall back on that. Some people don't have those options, and that's not always a happy story without that.
True. So then, after moving back in with your folks, then what did you decide to do? I
went riding.
Awesome. And this is around Castle Donington, or you just travel, or?
Well, no. What happened was, like, I went to go and ride with Steve Parr up at Llandegla. Mm-hmm. I think it was a Southern Downhill thing, because Steve Parr was doing MDE at the time, and he wanted to get the bikes on Southern Downhill. So I figured it's a day out riding. So I went up to go and ride with Steve and, ride some new bikes. And I got talking to this fella there, and, never met him before. And he's like, I've got a biking business out on the Italian Riviera. I was like, okay, sounds quite cool. And, got chatting to the guy. And he's like, well, I need someone to come and dig trails for a week or two for me in February. Do you want to come and do it?
What the hell?
And it's like, yes, I kind of went out thinking it'd be a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I remember driving down there, because it's, driving from Nottingham to, like, he lives just above San Remo, so it's about 22 hours driving.
Wow.
And there's a lot of time on your own in the car that when you're driving like that, to think, what the fucking hell am I doing?
So he drove there as well. What?
Well, showed up and didn't know the guy. The guy put me up in his spare room and just up in the place called you heard of Malini?
No.
Okay, it's where who was up there this year? Like, Santa Cruz did a launch up there a few years ago, and I think Sven and Anker did a Soul Trails up there this year.
Oh, right, okay. I can't recall it, but it's one of those things, isn't it? If I saw it, I'd be like, that place, yeah, okay.
It's honestly, it is probably. It's still one of my favourite places to ride anywhere in the world. Like, if you want to do like long natural descents, there aren't many places with the kind of variety that place has, and I kind of lucked up going there, really. But I started digging, hanging around with the guy a bit, and then he's like, "Well, do you want to come and help me guide some of the groups and that?" So I basically ended up guiding for him for a year.
Right. Wow. Sick. Awesome. Is it pretty much all year round riding, or what? How does that work?
February to November, February to October, November he does.
Wow.
So, it was, through us guiding, it was brilliant. Like, I mean, you ride your bike 6 days a week.
Yeah.
But it's also probably physically the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, I was so broken and exhausted by the end of it.
Really?
Like, I just remember on like on one of the last groups, like riding a trail, I knew pretty well, but I just couldn't focus even. Like, and I was just holding on, waiting for the crash to come. So I just, I just knew I wasn't mentally sharp enough, and it didn't. But that was kind of, But going out to Malini, let's see, because I've been testing a Saracen for Southern Downhill,
right?
And I got talking to guys at Saracen, and I kind of convinced them that if I did some blogs for Pinkbike, they'd give me a mist base, not a mist, an aerial.
Oh right, yeah.
So I started doing some blogging for Pinkbike while I was out there.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly how it works. I think it's because I was doing the blogs, and then there's a guy called Manuel Ducci who was almost made it in the early years of the EWS, but never quite got over that hump. And he was so quite a fast local enduro race, and he went to go and do Enduro of Nations. And so he invited me to come to you because I was, he's the first guy I was the first guy he'd ever met from Pinkbike. He's like,
okay.
He thought bringing a guy to Enduro of Nations from Pinkbike could look quite good for him, and could be quite useful for everyone.
Yeah.
So, somehow I convinced Pinkbike to pay me to do that.
Amazing. Right. And this is what, like 2011, 12, something like that?
This is 2011, and like you actually, if you go back and look at, you go back and look on Pinkbike, you can see, like I think it's my second attempt at shooting a race ever.
Really?
And I had like the Canon EOS 550, the absolute basic one with a kit lens on, and you look at what I was doing, and it was, most of it's out of focus. It's just like, what the fuck is this? But
so, what was your experience with shooting film at that point? Zero.
I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea.
At least you're honest, bro. That's sick. Dude, sometimes the best way to learn though is get in there at the deep end, isn't it, and just crack on with it.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, but then, off the back of that, that was the start of me getting a proper deal from Pinkbike.
Yeah.
But I then also got a proper deal. I got a deal with Super Enduro for the next year as well.
Okay.
Because they wanted to be on Pinkbike. So, I convinced them to basically put me on retainer for the year, and then I'd do Pinkbike photo epics for them from each race.
Got you. Right.
And so, it's like, it just that was kind of start of it. And actually, in terms of learning to do photography, shooting, I think I shot like 12 races that first year.
Yeah.
And you look at it, it's like, so it's an average of about 4 days shooting per race, 12 times a year, 10 hours a day. Because you look at a lot of the kids learning photography now, or I say kids, that's fucking patronising, isn't it? But you know what I mean,
Younger people.
If you're coming through learning photography now, and you go and do a couple of hours with your mate in the woods once every Sunday, that's great. But, in terms of just sheer volume of doing it and repeating it, it's not the same thing at all.
Yeah.
Whereas I was doing, you're doing 40 hours, 12 times a week, and then you're doing some other stuff in between, and suddenly it's like,
you get your 10,000 hours in, and you become quite bloody good at it as well. Yeah.
Well, and that's, and I just, that was that. I think that was the big thing, was that super, I really need to thank Enrico Guala for that, because like he took a massive risk, like, because I didn't, when he gave me the deal, like I still had that little shitty camera, and like, I mean, I went and bought for the deal. Because I got the deal, I bought myself like the 1D Mark III off eBay, which was like 2 generations old by that point. But they were grand on eBay, and then I got a couple of lenses, and but there was that deal from Enrico that kind of gave me the kind of, I had to basically, he was putting his confidence in me, so I had to do something.
You had to deliver on him, yeah.
And that was kind of the start of it. And it kind of went from there with Pinkbike.
Okay. That's interesting. That's really interesting, especially because at that point, that's when Pinkbike really started to grow. I think my mate, Cy Payton as well, weren't you? Cy Patton.
I've known Cy Payton. I mean, because I was living in Birmingham for a lot of years, so I used to know Cy fairly well from back in those days, and I've always kept in touch with the guy. So,
right.
I mean, he's the one who actually helped me get the blog when I moved out to Italy, because
He had
He was on
Descent World.
He had Descent Gear.
Descent
Johnny
Gear.
Beckett had the Descent World, but Si was still an editor for Descent World as well. So Si got me on Descent World.
Got you.
That because I was doing some like freelance stuff like when I was working in the UK, just for it was kind of fun. Like I was writing something which is what I wanted to do, and you get to ride some bikes and do a few cool things. So it was, it kind of made sense at the time. But yeah, because Si helped me kind of get on the pink bike thing.
Yeah,
So
I wondered if he did, with it being you relatively close from Birmingham or living in Birmingham and stuff. Yeah, I was curious if that was it. Because that's when I first probably met Si, was around 2010, 2011, and he was doing a lot with Pinkbike, and it was starting to sort of blow up, I guess. That's almost becoming the go-to place for mountain bike content. And he was running obviously the downhill series and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, God bless. Because like when I was living in London, I did that first Abercarn race, like my first ever downhill race.
Yeah.
God bless Si, because I got there and literally on my first practice run, because I had the first generation of Totem where what I understood is they didn't clean the machines properly in production, so they were still full of swarf.
Okay.
And so after a few hours use, all the swarf just basically shredded the seals. So I did my first run or so down this downhill race, like stressed out of my mind because I'm so scared. And there was I remember there was this Dan Critchlow and Julian Camillini on the Mojo program. I'm like, I'd never met a professional mountain bike racer.
Right.
And so I was like, shitting myself basically. And on the second run, my fork seals exploded. And so I went down like, shit. And so I just pulled out a 888 from the back of his van. It's like, give me it back in a few days, mate. Don't worry.
Legend.
Oh, God bless the fella. He's
a good dude, man. Really, really good dude. He came on this podcast when it first started. I think he was the second ever guest, like 3 years ago.
Si gets a lot of shit, but mostly from people that don't know him, because he's genuinely one of the best people I've met anywhere in mountain biking.
Totally agree. I've got a lot of respect for people who are straight talking, but get the job done as well. You can't say that's Si beats around the bush. He'll tell you how it is, and he's a proactive guy as well, isn't he? He's always doing stuff and good things as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but yeah, it's the thing with Pinkbike. Like, he was always very sharp with that stuff, seeing which way the wind was blowing.
Yeah.
It's always,
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a small world. So then, how have you ended up? Who are some of the clients you've worked with and stuff like that? Then, how did this photography thing really start to and writing thing blow up?
I mean, because I got a between Super Enduro and Pinkbike, I was doing quite well actually. Like I ended up, because I think, and I might be correct on this. I'm one of the first. I was maybe the first person on retainer for Pinkbike on this side of the Atlantic.
Okay.
I think, they had, because they had a few staff in Canada, and they had some guys. I think Ian Highlands and Colin Marr were doing some World Cups and stuff for them.
Okay.
But they didn't really have anyone in Europe at the time. I think Alistair McLennan was doing some stuff, but I don't know what basis he did that on. There wasn't really anyone in Europe with Pinkbike, and that. But then suddenly, when everyone, suddenly when there's a Pinkbike photographer in Europe, it's Pinkbike journalist. Sorry, in Europe, you're very in demand, and it's suddenly find yourself being pulled in all these thousands of directions. And, in the beginning, I didn't help myself. I remember, when I first started, because I got my first proper retainer at the start of 2012.
Can you just briefly explain what a retainer is? Because people listening to this might not necessarily be aware of how that would work.
Basically, Pinkbike put me on a guaranteed amount every month. So, it's basically it's on a wage.
Yeah.
It's not, the thing of salary, I'm a contractor, so there's no employment rights. There's no, to be honest, I've never had a contract with Pinkbike, which is maybe, I think everyone, they've always been good to me, but I've never actually had a contract with Pinkbike.
There you go. It could be a good thing.
It just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. They've just never seemed to find me important enough to get around to sorting that out. So, but they've, it's been, God, how many years now? 8 years now. They've always been good to me. So
awesome.
I don't worry about that too much. But basically I got a guaranteed amount each month basically from Pinkbike, and I kept I mean, one of the things I found is like, so I was trying to help Pinkbike bring some young people in a few years ago.
Okay.
And their expectations of what they were going to get in the beginning was, some of them, it just wasn't reasonable. You know, whereas, you know, my first monthly retainer for Pinkbike was like, I think it's like $300 or $500 a month. So like about, you know, 250 quid.
Yeah.
And the point, you know, and then the next step was like, I guess they won't mind me saying this, you know, they moved me up to $1,000 a month.
And is that to deliver X amount of content, or is it?
At that stage, no, it wasn't that structured. Like, no one, you know, but the whole thing was like, I worked more than full-time hours for €1,000 a month, because that's how I got, you know, that's how I kind of built the retainer up, is they gave me that much money, and then eventually the retainer was increased to kind of match what I was doing, rather than expecting the money first. And you know, and that's, you know, and it's a work ethic thing. You know, I worked my arse off for them. I mean, I fucked myself over royally that first year, though. I mean, that was kind of the beginning of me, you know, creating the spiral that kind of blew up on me last year. That was like my first, you know, because at the end of the guiding season, Malini's shit in the winter. Right. And so I didn't really know what to do, so I booked another ticket back out to New Zealand for a month, when I go and stay with a friend out in Queenstown for a month.
Cool, okay.
Got back, and then, I had a couple of weeks with my parents, and then drove back out to Europe to go and sort of start it all over again. And I agreed to go and meet this guy I'd met, and like, I think he was trying to talk about getting me some work with something. He said he'd take me to Masters of Dirt. Okay. Which, you know, I didn't know what it was. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go and do that. You know. And so I drove from the UK to Tuscany, Tuscany's about 5 hours further than where I was living before. Okay. Got to this guy's house. So it's about 20. I've done it in 19 hours, but it's more like 22, 23 hour drive if you drive sensibly.
Brutal.
So I drove all the way out to this guy's house, slept a night. Then the next day, it was a 10-hour drive up to Vienna to go and do Masters of Dirt for 3 nights, which, you know, like late nights, you know, shooting that till whenever. Then 10 hours back to Tuscany to his house. Then back one night there, back in my car, and 5 hours to Malini. And then I got a call from Carl at Pinkbike saying, "Do you want to go to the Taipei bike show for us?"
You didn't drive there, did you?
It's like, you know, it's like it's like, fuck, you know, I can go to, you know, it was a bit like, shit, I can go to Taiwan. I've never been to Taiwan. That would be brilliant. Yeah. And, you know, it was fun enough at the time, but it's you know, you don't really
exhausting, that stuff, though. You know, but you don't realise it's doing it to you. Exactly. That's the thing. And again, I think we've got some similarities, actually, because before having this company, I had a company we used to convert camper vans, like motorhomes. Yeah. Okay. So we had our office here in the UK. We had a factory in Poland, but we sold most of our like vans in Sweden and Norway. So for 3 or 4 years, I had this epic driving triangle of go from England to Poland, Poland to Sweden, usually drive back from Sweden to Poland, back to England, and I did that for 3 years. Yeah. Literally just lived it out of a bag. Yeah. And for the first year or so, probably like yourself, you're like, oh, this is great, I'm travelling around, it's not too hard, I'm just sat here driving. And then you think, oh, actually, no, I've been driving for 21 hours straight, I've not slept yet, I feel like death, and I'm going to have a couple of hours sleep and then do it all again the next day. And it just, I mean, I always joke about it with my girlfriend, because when I got out of that business, it probably took me like 2 months to properly recover from that amount of work and stress of running the business as well while you're just on the road. So those long road trips, man, it's brutal for your body. It's just not natural either to be like driving through the night, then, you know, in your case, probably flying through the night and then off somewhere. It's just not a natural thing for your body, and after time it just goes, I'm done, I'm fucked, I'm out, you know, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like that first year, Pinkbike told me I should come to Eurobike, and not knowing any better, I said yes. And I hate Eurobike. I'm supposed to be I really ought to be there tomorrow, but wild horses and all that. Yeah. But I mean, that, because I was the kind of photographer with Pinkbike, that, you know, that because like no one else had a decent camera, and I'd kind of figured a few things out by the sort of 6 months into shooting. I'd figured a couple of things out.
Right.
And so, if we had a company and wanted to make the company's products look good, they'd send me over, to go and use it. At least had a proper camera and lens, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And the stuff like, I got roped to the shooting a continental party one night, which, it's like, you go, oh, you're going to a party? Well, I'm not. I'm walking around with a camera for 3 hours shooting drunk people. Yeah. But then also with the way the production is for Pinkbike, everything's the same day. And I was doubling up as a tech editor as well.
Right. So they want, you mean the content's got to be out that day, so you go shoot it, edit it, upload it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you're finishing work at 2 or 3 in the morning, and then you're back out again you're back towards the conference at 8 o'clock the next morning to go and repeat it.
Yeah.
And after like 3, 4, well, I think it's 3 or 5 days, I honestly can't remember now. But I think it's Tuesday to Friday we did maybe, then we sacked it off Saturday. Right. And it was just... on the way home, I just had a little breakdown in one of the car. I remember sitting in this car park in this lay-by in Switzerland, and I was so tired, like I remember sitting in my car crying because I couldn't work out whether I was supposed to go right or left. Jeez. I couldn't think, like, my brain just went, nah. Yeah. And it just, I started to realise that, maybe maybe this isn't sustainable, maybe this isn't. But then you keep going, like, I knew I was tired. But then I had all these commitments. The race season didn't finish till October because then there's, because the finale EWS was like end of October at that point. Then there was Rock d'Azur. Then I'd organised a SRAM test because I actually did the early piece for Pinkbike on 26 versus 27 versus 29 wheels.
Oh wow, right.
Like because SRAM had a fleet of like geometry corrected bikes at that time, and so I got them to cut. Because at that point I moved to Massavecchia in Tuscany for the winter because it was a bit warmer.
Okay.
As they came down and we did that, and then we all got food poisoning, which was. But there was also, and there was the launch of the new Santa Cruz V10 as well. I did that as well because that was they actually launched the V10 at the place where I was going to be staying. Right. And so basically, I did the launch, and then when everyone went off, I just stayed. And but then also at the start of December, I'd agreed to go to Hong Kong with Enrico Guala and Manuel Ducci. Right. And it's just,
jeez,
I mean, Enrico is, God, I love the man, but he is mental. Right. Like, we had a flight. I think I had to leave home in Tuscany at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to drive to Geneva to meet Enrico and Manuel. They then drove me up to Milan airport. We then flew from Milan to Hong Kong at like 9 o'clock in the morning. But then we landed at like 6 or 7 a.m. local time. And Enrico made us keep going till like 10, 11 o'clock. Like, well, basically, we were out shooting on the streets of Hong Kong at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening.
Jeez.
He had us like marching around bike shops, and then and then the next day I did a photo shoot at one of the islands, which became an MB UK story, and then we went on to Taipei for, it was, anyway. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's cool. It's crazy hearing about all the stuff though. It really is, all the travel.
It was just, and I got back to Tuscany, and I was just fucked. I could barely talk by the time I was done with that. Like really, I wanted the season to have been done in October, and I dragged myself through another 2 months.
Yeah.
And I just remember that, I was just fucked basically. But then the mistake.
What sort of year is that one then? Where are we talking now?
This was 2012.
2012.
So
okay.
This was my first year,
right?
And I basically pushed myself to the point of being completely, useless by the end of the year.
Yeah. And again, was that just that feeling of if you don't do it, someone else will do it, or?
Well, it's just that I just didn't know what I was doing, so I felt I had to do everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't say no to anything, and it's just, you're just running, and and in some ways, the problem is you have to do that to some extent. Like I wouldn't have got, I got a much bigger retainer from Pinkbike the year after, and I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't done that. The reason I got the reason it worked is because I did that. So but then
there's like a level of expectation then for the next year. So you're almost, you can never. Yeah, I don't know. Well, like you're sort of setting the bar so high, aren't you, that it's always going to have to stay that high.
I mean, the problem for me was like I got home, and I remember because I got home early December, and I couldn't do anything for about 2 weeks. Then I remember on the 21st of December sitting there, and I started writing again. I was back on deadline for Pinkbike again 2 weeks later, and and I didn't take time off. I didn't take time to unwind after this incredibly intense year. I just did the minimum possible I felt I could till I could get back to doing it again. And I mean, in some ways, I had a reasonable break at the start of that year, but I never quite felt ready the year after to start again. I never felt I got to that point where I was, physically and mentally ready to go and get back into exhausting myself again.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I did a lot as well that first year because I was living where I was living was like, I ended up in this, I ended up in a campsite basically living in like a cabin by the beach next to a trail area, which was lovely, but it was also very isolated. So all I did was write articles and ride bikes.
Yeah.
And that's basically all I did with my time.
Right.
I remember seeing Brett Tippie that week at Garda Festival. I hadn't really thought anything about it. But Brett Tippie comes to me and is like, I think you must be the busiest man in mountain biking. So, and I was just like, I hadn't thought anything about it.
Really?
I'd just been,
And why did he think that? Just because you'd always reply to an email, or everything that's on Pinkbike's got your name at the side of it?
I mean, I guess at that point I was doing 2 or 3 articles a week for Pinkbike. I was testing bikes, I did launch camps. It was just running. And then the EWS started, and like that first year, that first EWS, I was the only Pinkbike photographer there.
Right. I read a really good comment the other day actually about some of your work, that someone had said how you probably are responsible in some ways for the growth of the Enduro World Series because you photographed it so well and made it look so appealing. I think that's pretty cool though.
I don't know. I mean, I was certainly, I was Sven did some stuff in the early days as well. I mean, Sven was probably shooting enduro before I was, but then he wasn't there week in, week out. Like that 2012, I put 20 enduro races plus on Pinkbike.
Yeah.
No, it's not 20, sorry. More like 15, 12, 15, sorry, not 20. But, I was there week in, week out with the Italian series. I did one of the French races. I was.
And those days are grueling as well because you're out. Are you riding the trail as well? Are you riding the tracks and then photography? Yeah. I mean, long days.
Yeah. Well, it was always, always in my head. It had to be same day. And that's, so yeah. You start in, the riders leave 8, 9 in the morning. You're shooting till 5 or 6 in the evening, and then I've always been quite quick, so I usually done early, which is like for photographers early is 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then you do it all the next day, and it's physically and mentally demanding. And I
guess it's the society thing as well that we just want it now, don't we? It's instant. We want to go on Pinkbike, we want it, or whatever. We want to see a photo epic the next morning of a race, or even that evening. And like you say, there's people behind the scenes making that happen, and you maybe don't necessarily realise that. It's not making itself this content, is it?
It was, for Pinkbike, those races, it was just me. I mean, so you're doing everything. You're writing, you're doing the physical. People, one thing that takes a while is the physical laying out of the article.
Yeah, especially with Pinkbike, that it's hard to use, man. I've had many a battle with that thing trying to make the podcast blog. It's tough.
Well, it's so much better now than it was back in the day.
I can imagine. I bet it's a hell of a lot better, but even now it's bloody hard. Yeah. You've got to know code. It's terrible.
You get used to it. You get faster to it, I mean, the thing was, like, because I've done all the doing so many articles so regularly, I got pretty good at it. Although these days they've changed the code again now, and I'm a bit off the back. But
right.
I'm not losing sleep over it these days. So, but. I don't know. It was interesting being there at the start. Not the start of enduro, but when it started kind of coming into the mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the thing in my head is like, in terms of mountain bike photography, before I was doing this for a job, the thing that sticks in my head was what like Sven and Gary were doing for Vital. What those guys were doing for World Cups. I mean, that was. I actually remember one of the thoughts in my head, and it sounds stupid now I say it, but at the time it made sense, is I wanted to have big riders in the frames because you look at how the World Cup stuff when Sven and Gary were using the long lenses, you have this really imposing figure on the frame, and it looked so rad. And so that was one of the things I remember trying to work out with the camera, how you get big riders in the frame with the camera. You know, and I wanted to show people that these guys were riding really technical stuff really fast. You know, because no one really knew what it was then, and it's like, just trying to show that side of it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think there was a lot of confusion when it first, you know, became popular. I know for me at that sort of time, around 11, 12, I was racing a little bit of downhill and stuff, and just the thought of enduro just put me off. I think because I just didn't understand it properly. You know, people would say, "Oh, you've got to ride between stages." I was like, "Yep, fuck that. I ain't doing that." I just didn't understand it. And I've still actually never done an enduro race ever. I don't know why. It's just never happened. But now I can fully understand it. But again, I guess the growth of that side of the sport probably put more pressure on you because more brands were getting into it and more races and stuff.
Well, I mean, that first year, I burnt myself out again and didn't get enough time to recover again. But then it wasn't, you know, I was starting to learn a bit more as well.
Right.
You know, starting to understand but then 2014 was quite a big step for me because that first year I didn't really leave Europe. You know, I travelled a shitload running around the continent, but it was mainly Europe.
Yeah.
Whereas the second year, I started getting some clients and, you know, enough money coming in to go and follow the EWS to Chile. And I remember I spoke to DeLorme about this since, and I'm fairly certain I was a horrible person to work with at that race because, you know, it was the first time I'd really had commercial photography clients, and I'd kind of mostly got by doing editorial side stuff. You know, I did quite a bit with Privateer, which always pains me that they closed down.
Yeah.
You know, about the time they shut the doors, I was haggling with Andy Waterman to hopefully shoot a whole gear episode for them.
Oh, right.
You know,
yeah.
You know, and it was, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening there, and I still think that was a huge loss to the sport, that magazine going under. But I've mostly been doing editorial stuff. And then that first year, I started to get some teams to work with. I had Manuel Ducci's local team. I had the Urge team.
Okay.
And then there's a few other bits came along as I went as well. I think I picked Cube up that year.
Okay, right.
You know, so I started having some clients.
And that adds pressure, or?
That first race in Nevertheless the Chian, I was stressed out my fucking mind.
Really?
You know, I don't know where the stress cycle started and where I stopped sleeping on the jobs and because in that first year I don't remember having trouble sleeping too much. Whereas, you know, certainly as the years went, you know, as the years of traveling went on, you know, sleep became a much rarer thing, and it became, I kind of reached a point that I towards the end of traveling where I wasn't sleeping when I was away from home.
Wow, really?
You know,
and how many days would that usually last?
Oh God, you know, I think 2016 I did 150, 180 days away.
Fucking hell, so half a year.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, you know, I just wasn't sleeping.
Yeah,
you know, especially with the races and that, and it's, you know, I just wasn't managing the stress basically, and then I was get to the winter, and I wouldn't give myself time to recover, because if you look at, you know, if you look at say what Sven does, I think Sven's a really good example actually, because Sven has been there for how many years has he been doing World Cups now? When he started shooting 2008, 2009, he started shooting.
Probably, yeah.
You know,
I'd say that's over 10 years.
Yeah, and he, you know, he can keep doing it. He's physically found a way where he can keep doing that. And if you look, he basically disappears through the winter.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Just full chill mode.
And you look at a lot of the guys who do it successfully actually all do that. Yeah, you look at Dave Trumpor, Nathan,
Boris for sure.
Yeah, I guess Gary did the same as well.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, because I had the Pinkbike thing, I'd finish the race season and start working the Pinkbike again.
Right.
And I think that for me, more than anything, was the big. I don't want to say a mistake because Pinkbike was good and it helped make it all work, but.
Was there a financial thing as well? Could you not take your foot off the gas because financially you'd be struggling?
I don't know really, to be honest. I mean, I was earning good money at that period, so I don't know. It's hard to.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I mean,
Or maybe is there like a feeling of you don't want to let people down as well? Like you don't want to turn jobs down. There's probably a bit of that as well.
I mean, by like 2014, 2015, I'd started saying no to stuff and started realising I had to manage my time.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I realised, I think it's 2014, I realised I couldn't keep on doing like press camps and stuff and being a photographer. You know, I remember, you know, there was a launch, like, so there was a Super Enduro one weekend, then there was a launch, and then there was EWS at a loss. And so, you know, I drove like 5 or 6 hours to northern Italy, did like a high mountain, like, you know, kind of live shoot the first evening, shot 3 or 4 days of racing, drove 5 hours to a press camp, did the press camp for 2 or 3 days, then drove 7 hours to an EWS and shot 4 days, you know. I know EWS was just 2 days for that one, but.
Right.
And like, I remember like, you know, I think I really upset the brand I went to press camp for because I was fucked basically when I got there. I was absolutely exhausted. And things like, well, yeah, the first morning, they're just throwing us straight into all these meetings. So, like, 9 o'clock, you've got 3 hours straight of presentations.
Yeah.
And I was exhausted. So we had lunch, you know, in Switzerland, so you're eating lots of carbs. And
oh, jeez.
We were supposed to go riding after lunch. And I went back to my room to get changed, sat down on the bed, lay back, and next thing I know, like, it's like 45 minutes later.
Right, wow.
And then I come out and everyone's already leaving with the bikes, and then suddenly I realise I'm still shit for brains, and like the guy was asking me questions about how to set my bike up, and I just couldn't answer. In the end, I just had to go back in the hotel and hide for the afternoon because I just couldn't think. I mean, you know, I mean, I put some of that stuff down, like, because I've hit my head too many times over the years.
Okay. Do you think?
Like,
are you actually worried about the CTE?
Not CTE, more just long-term effects of multiple concussion. I think, I mean, I don't like people talking about CTE too much. I think too much attention gets put on it. Mm-hmm. So I think CTE is very much like an edge thing. You know, you look at the guys that get it, you know, you look at Dave Mirra, or, you know, he was hitting his head day after day after day. Football guys, it's day after day after day.
Yeah.
For us in mountain biking, the damage is likely to be lower key, but that doesn't mean it's not real. You know, it's not going to be anything quite as dramatic, but, you know, if you ask me, is my cognitive function impaired? I would say yes. And I realised actually for the year I was guiding, because I was sitting in a van talking to one of the guests, and like he was really into he was doing like track motos. Okay. And he'd had a big stack and like, you know, went head first into say his side base and done his like C2, C3 and like massive concussion. Yeah. And he was telling me the symptoms of like, you know, like mild brain damage basically is the, TBI. And I was like, oh shit, that all sounds very familiar. Because, and the one, it sounds really stupid to talk about this, like, but it made complete sense at the time. Because the thing is, you lose like the finer point of emotional control is the thing. And the guy was telling me like he'd be watching shit TV and you'd find yourself welling up. And I realised I do that, like, because, you know, I'll watch something I don't give a fuck about, and I'll find myself having like a big, like, emotional response, like out of proportion. I basically find myself tearing up over stupid stuff on TV. Yeah. And it's, you start looking through, and it's one of the things that's kind of
really.
Yeah. Well, the thing for me was I got the fuck kicked out of me in London.
Oh, like actually did.
Oh God, yeah! I was walking back from a restaurant one night, and I've kind of never really worried about my personal safety. I always figured I'm in like a nice medium kind of thing, I'm big enough not to be too easy a target, but not so big that I'm a challenge.
Got you. Okay, all right.
So I just figured I'd look after myself. And I was walking home along the canals in East London one night, and this youth cycles into me. He apologises, and his mate just comes over the back and...
No way.
And then 3 or 4 more just start piling into me, and it's just like...
No, fucking hell.
And they just beat me unconscious and left me with 5 fractures on my face at the side of the canal. Like
Fucking oath, man.
I counted the marks on my face in the hospital afterwards, and I reckon they hit me about 30 times. And I just
like undefensed, like punches as well, just teeing
it
off.
was a shock. But the thing is, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like I remember going down and seeing them passing something metal between their hands, and I just remember thinking, "Fuck, I hope that's not a knife."
Mm.
And I went home and I saw this guy I grew up with, and he's got classic small man syndrome. He's always got something to prove, like trying to fight with someone. He's not a hard man, to be honest, but
Yeah.
But he's like, "Oh man, if it had been me, I'd have fucking." And I'm like, "No, you wouldn't."
Nah.
No, because if you start throwing punches around in that situation, they're just going to stick a knife between your ribs.
Definitely.
There's no, it was the kind of situation. There's no fucking hard man solution. It's just like it's going to suck.
Yeah.
Just get it over with and get on with your life.
Fucking hell.
But
so you think that has had maybe some?
Well, I mean, I've had a few. I've had 5 or 6 of the decent concussions on top of it, and
Right.
I always felt like that was a factor in what happened to me. I mean, the problem is you can't say for sure.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, I got 0 follow-up care after I was attacked. It was. I mean, I remember trying to get some psychic, because when I first went back to work, I was really fucked up and depressed.
Yeah.
I remember I'd leave my office, after a bit attacked, after this beating. It's I was hyper vigilant for months afterwards.
I bet, dude. Yeah.
Every time someone's walking towards me in the street, I was working up whether I could take them or not, and and I was just really struggling with the after effects. And I remember, I'd go out and walk around the streets and just cry.
Wow.
It was just I tried to go and get go and see a psychologist or something, and I just couldn't even get a doctor's appointment. I'm there on the phone, and they're like, "Are you registered?" "No, we can't help you." But I'm fucking standing in the street crying because I'm a mess, and they're like, "Well, we can't help you because you're not ready."
Yeah.
It was, but then and there's no, if you're not doing baseline testing, no one can tell you, are you 1, 2, 20% changed or whatever. It's just you just, and certainly for me, if you go and find listed the TBI, the TBI symptoms, I tick most of those boxes. Okay. I mean, some of it, there's things there's genetic disposition to as well. Like some people genetically don't handle a hit to the head as well as other people.
Yeah.
So
It's
all so particular, and it's
It's interesting because they say some of the worst sports for that stuff are some of the sports which you just wouldn't associate with it. It's stuff they say, it's like wakeboarding, because it's the constant movement of your brain. I mean, your brain's basically obviously it's within your skull, but it's surrounded by a little bit of water, and it does rattle from side to side. And sort of see that with mountain biking as well, in a way that you probably don't realise, but your head's constantly jolting. I don't know.
I mean, for me, it was just landing on my face too many times.
Yeah, and there's that as well. And then there's added, if you mountain bike, chances are you're going to crash pretty hard a few times in your career, no matter how good you are.
I mean,
It's crazy though how much of that stuff is starting to come to light now. Like you said, Dave Mirra, prime example. There's been quite a few, I'm quite into the motocross side of things. There's been quite a few guys in moto that have come out and that have had problems. So I don't know. But sports are becoming more aware of it, aren't they? I've had Todd Mayan on the podcast not long ago. So Todd sort of was really good friends with Dave as well, and Josh Perry. He was on. Was really good friends with Dave, and he was saying now it is a lot better if you compete at X Games or something, that there is a protocol if you hit your head now, whereas before it was like put your helmet on, grin and bear it. It was almost like a badge of honor, right? Of like, oh, he's crashed, he's fucking been knocked out, but he's back at the start. It's like, what?
But then, you watch World Cup, and I can think of 4 or 5 instances this season where I've watched on the live feed riders who should not have got back on the bike, and it's, I don't know, it's I mean, it's not my place to say, but I know for a fact there's one junior rider that's currently sidelined with post-concussion syndrome. And, it's not my place to name him because I don't know if he wants to talk about that publicly, but I know for a fact there's one rider who's suffering quite severe consequences of multiple concussions at the moment.
Right.
And it's, But as I say, I mean, I think the thing for me is like, I kind of, if I had to peg it, I'd say I'm not, the multiple concussions, it's maybe only a 5 to 10% difference. It's not a dramatic thing like, it's not full blown CTE. But then you start looking over an extended period of time. If everything is 5% worse, then that cumulatively the effect of that, it's like, well, how big an effect is that? And I think that's, it's one of the things about talking about mental health though as well. It's like, you certainly TBI, it puts you at more risk of depression and anxiety.
Okay.
That's, there's no question about that. So it's like, so for instance, in my instance, would I have suffered anxiety to the extent I did if I hadn't received multiple concussions? There's other questions like, maybe if I hadn't took so much ecstasy when I was 18, would I have suffered the same?
True, yeah, it's true.
But that's, I mean, it's good. Like, I think we're in a golden age for helmets at the moment. Like,
definitely.
It's definitely never been as good as it is.
No, it's probably the sport's probably never been as safe as it is. I know the speed's definitely gone up as well, but it's probably all relative. Would you say you've got quite an addictive personality as well then? Like, are you addicted to like the work ethic? Are you I wouldn't say you had a drug addiction, but you're addicted to the feeling of it and stuff like that.
I got told I've got an obsessive personality type, which more than addictive, I'm obsessive, which is, I guess, semantics. But I'm certainly, there's an element that I actually think photography in some ways was kind of damaging to my mental health, which probably sounds a weird thing to say.
In what way?
Well, how do I explain this? Because I think the best way to kind of start explaining is like, I heard something a while ago that someone's explained the thing about your brain. It's not to remember what you were doing last Thursday or what shoes you wore last February. That's not what your brain's there to do. Your brain is there to recognise patterns. The main thing it does, it learns behaviours and responses and stores them more than the autobiographical memory. That's the main thing it does.
Yeah.
And so, I think with photography, it very strongly rewards obsession than perfectionism.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to be a good photographer, you have got to be, you've got to get everything to get that photo. Everything in the frame has to be just right. And it's like, I don't know. I always felt that I got more difficult to be around the more photography I did. Like, I'd come home from a trip. I mean, part of it also was the fatigue, and I've also discovered it's actually a normal thing to have like an adjustment period when you get home. Like, I was talking to my neighbours about this because I thought I was alone in this, but his husband does a lot of travelling, and they'll have massive rows the week he comes back, because you come back into an environment and you're trying to kind of take control of the environment to kind of make it feel comfortable.
Got you.
And so like I'd come back and I'd have huge blazing rows with my wife over like where the cutlery holder was put on the side.
Wow.
Like for the washing up. It's like, it's nothing really, but it was like,
it was big thing, yeah.
At that moment, it was this really huge problem, and it's like, and I do feel like, it's a combination of everything, but doing something where that kind of obsessive behaviour, that kind of perfectionism is strongly rewarded. Well,
you start carrying that over to everything else.
Yeah, and if you don't, you're not aware of it, and you're not learning how to cope with that. It's not the same thing at all. But there's like Joe Rogan interviewed Mike Tyson this year.
Yeah.
And the question he asked him is, because you know about the whole customado, like hypnotising him to be a killer.
Yep. Yeah. I remember the podcast was awesome. Actually, it was really interesting.
Well, it's the bit where Joe asks him, "Did anyone teach you how to turn it off?"
Yeah, and he said no, didn't he? He was like, no, not really. It was on all the time.
Yeah, and that's I don't want to equate myself to Mike Tyson, but it's the similar.
I can see what you mean. Yeah, it's on all the time, and you don't have the tools to be able to go right. Work finishes, and you need to fall back into a semi-normal life. Is that what you sort of mean?
Yeah. You need. Because I don't want to stop being a photographer, so therefore I have to keep that obsessiveness. I think that obsession is what makes me a good photographer. But how do you balance that with being a healthy, rounded human being that your wife doesn't want to stab in the face?
I've never really thought about it like that, and I'm in the back of my mind, I'm trying to relate how that equates to my life in a way. You know, I probably can't, but I know that I'm like that with my business, that I want everything to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's not, I freak the fuck out and I become a nightmare to be around. And with the podcast, it's actually kind of similar, because you want it to be as good as it can be, and you're always searching for like the perfect sort of balance of sound quality or whatever it could be.
Yeah.
And you obsess over it probably too much. And it was really nice, actually. So I put an episode out a while ago, and the sound quality wasn't very good, but someone reached out on Instagram and said, I love the episode. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry about, the sound quality wasn't very good. And they said, I love it. I love that it's raw and that you can tell that you sometimes don't know what you're doing. And I was like, that's actually really nice to hear, because you're sort of constantly trying to impress people and get it to some sort of level that you probably can't quite reach sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, well, yeah. I don't like to give advice.
Yeah.
There's one thing I've been conscious with all this. I don't want to give people advice on how to deal with stuff. But the one thing that I don't want to be even like evangelical about this, but I think meditation is probably the best thing I've found in many, many years.
That's amazing that you brought that up, because that is one thing that I wanted to ask you about, because you obviously wrote this article on Pinkbike, which if people haven't read it, go read it. I'll put a link in the show description. And it was, really, really, really good article. I think it'll resonate with so many people. But I was going to ask you, what have you found to sort of alleviate some of that anxiety and stress? And
well, the first thing's therapy.
Right.
Honestly, I resisted the idea of seeing therapists for years. I thought it's some bullshit woo-woo stuff for damaged people, which, and again, I'm probably down. Yeah, I mean, that's not considered anyway.
Let's not debate whether you're damaged or not.
No, like really, it's one of those things you look back and maybe if I'd gone to see a psychologist a couple of years ago, I could have got a better grip on it. But the thing with anxiety, it comes back to the learning brain, that your brain learns these behaviours. And what I found out from my therapist is that I learned the basic set of behaviours, some of them in childhood.
Right.
You know, and it's just that their manifestation became toxic, basically, the way for me. And it's taken the time, I was seeing a therapist twice a week in the beginning of this year.
Right.
And, that really, you start looking at the literature, and it's like therapy is the only thing that actually works. Like there's not, you can read all the self-help books you want, and maybe for some people that'll work, and you can take all things like the drugs don't work really. Well, there's none of the current generation of psychiatric drugs actually cure you of anything.
No. Okay. Interesting. Just to unpack that a little bit there, No, it's fine. I think what often will hold people back is that initial realization of, right, there's a problem. Yeah. And where to turn. So how did you...
Well, that's actually that's a very salient question, because actually in the beginning, when I was really fucking struggling, I had no idea where to go. Like, I didn't know who I'm supposed to be talking to, what I'm supposed to do. And I went to my GP.
Okay.
And that was, he'd helped the best he could, but that actually ended up fucking me up worse than anything, because he got me on benzodiazepines.
What's that?
It's kind of like Valium. They're basically sedatives. They just make you shit for brains and kind of out of it.
Right.
Because what I figured is that if I could just get through this, if I could just have a break from the constant turning in my head, well, I'll be okay. Just need a little break, and then it'll be okay. Then I can get through it. And so what he offered me first was antidepressant and a benzodiazepine. And I didn't want to take antidepressants because I didn't want to be on long-term medication. Mm-hmm. And then but I thought, well, fuck it. It'll just give, the benzodiazepine will just knock me out at night, so I can have some more sleep, I can have some more rest, and that'll make it all better, right? And that benzodiazepine turned out to be a massive mistake for me.
Right.
Some of it's quite. The thing with these kind of drugs is, I want to caveat saying it's very personal how people react to them.
Yeah.
But the guy gave me no information at all, and just said, just take here's the dosage, take this and, come back to me in a week's time or whatever.
Mm.
And I was like, I knew there could be addictive. So I'm like, do I have to worry about addiction? He said, no, as long as you don't take it for more than 3 months, there's no addiction risk. So
crack on.
Yeah, thumbs up doesn't really work on a podcast, does it? So,
it's cool.
But what he didn't tell me is after 3 weeks of dosage, you have to start withdrawing from them. You can't just stop taking them, and no one tells you this.
Why do you think he was so negligent as to giving you this information? It's just like, tick the box, you've been prescribed this, move on. And where are you, by the way? You're out where you live right now. You're in France.
Sospel in the south of France.
Right.
I just don't know. Partly they're busy, and partly it's very, as I say, it's very personal. Like, you may react completely differently to me.
Yeah.
But I got sort of 3 weeks in, and I realised they were making me shit for brains. Like the drugs, to make dinner for my wife to go to lunch, make dinner for when she came home, make a fire, clean my teeth and have a shower, and maybe go for a 20-minute walk, was basically, that took me all day to do that.
Right.
Your brain is so foggy, and you just have this big cloud. You can't think. Like, I couldn't ride a bike, I couldn't write, I couldn't be physically active. It basically robbed me of everything I enjoy doing, and that was. And so I got to a day, I was like, right, I'm going to stop these fucking drugs. I don't need them. I think I'll be okay. And so I stopped I think it was a Friday I stopped on. And I remember going out, and that day I felt actually okay. Like, I had some paranoia, I had some stabs of like the kind of anxiety coming back through the day, but I was like, this is okay.
Right.
Until I got to the evening when the drug really started to drop out of my system. And that's when it got fucking horrendous. Like, it felt like my brain was building up to a seizure, basically. There's this like lightning storm feeling in your head, and it's like you start starting these crackles in your brain, and it's like, the fuck is going on? So I realised then quite quickly that you can't just stop these meds. I made the mistake of doing some Google researching, but discovered that you have to start reducing them slowly. So
because otherwise, I guess your chemicals in your brain are just totally out of whack at this point.
They can cause, basically, if you come off a benzodiazepine cold turkey, it can kill you.
Yeah, it's just fucking hell, wow.
So,
jeez. And
so I started taking the drug that night, but once you've started the withdrawal effects, they don't stop. Okay. So even though you're basically then still taking the drugs, you have all the negative effects I wanted to get rid of before, plus all the negative withdrawal effects, and none of the positive.
Jeez. And
that first night was honestly one of the scariest nights of my life, because I had this. I managed to get to sleep, but I had this dream, and I dreamt I had schizophrenia. And it's very hard to describe it. Basically, I dreamt that my head was filled with this sound and this fury, and that in this dream, every time I closed my eyes, there was no peace. If with this schizophrenia, I'd never have peace again.
Right.
And
jeez.
Even 10 months later, it scared me. It scared me to the core. Yeah. It was so vivid and so real. And I woke up and opened my eyes, and it was quiet, and it was like, oh God, that's not my life. Because it was like, that was going to be my whole life of just having this head full of, just this. I don't want to repeat the same phrase, but yes, this sound and the fury is the only way I can describe it.
Okay.
And God knows if real schizophrenia is like that. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, it was horrible. And then, the withdrawal process ended up taking 2 months, I think. So I had 3 weeks of fluffy clouds, and then 2 months of hellish withdrawal. And basically, I was in the height of a mental health crisis with the withdrawal stacked on top of it.
Right.
So then I started antidepressant, quite a fast-acting one, and that, because they reached a point with the withdrawal where I didn't know if I could get through it.
Wow.
Wow. It was so it basically took my already high anxiety and ratcheted it up another 10 points, and it's just constantly terrified. And fortunately, the antidepressant kicked in, and that started to ease it off, and that got me through the withdrawal phase. And like once the benzos came out of my system, I could start riding bikes again. Because, for instance, I couldn't ride a mountain bike because my reactions were so slow that it wasn't safe to ride a bike.
Right.
And so then I started on beta blockers. It was beta blockers and an antidepressant. But then I was so tired all the time with that I was getting massive fatigue. So then I came off the beta blocks. Things got a bit better with that, and it's like that was kind of. But then I then struggled for all the year to have enough fitness to ride my bike, and I couldn't understand it. Like, I'd go, like, I went and did one of my loops, like it's like a 2.5 hour loop, and it's a big ride.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel too bad. But then I came back, and my Garmin's like 60 hours recovery.
Right.
It just put me on my arse for a week. Like,
really?
with the fatigue was so acute from doing a bike ride like that I had increased anxiety, and I just couldn't do any more sport for a week after that.
Yeah.
And finally, I got to talking to my therapist in April, because like the psychiatrist just wanted me to keep taking the drugs, and he's like, they say like it's a minimum of a year, 2 years on the drugs. And I started talking to my therapist in April, and she's like, well, no, you've made good progress with the therapy. Start taking the drugs. Sorry, stop. You can start stopping taking the drugs.
Right, like wean off it.
Yeah, you start withdrawing from it.
Yeah.
And it's been really, like, basically, I'm about 5 months out from starting that process now.
Okay, wow.
And I'm still, like, I'm 3 months from my last dosage, and I'm still having, like, some disturbed sleep and, like, digestive problems and occasional pangs of, like, exogenous anxiety from, 3 months after that last dosage. And it's things like, I track my HRV. I use, Chris Kilmurray got me using the iAthlete app that he uses with his athletes.
Okay.
And like he recommended it a few years ago, and it's like you can sort of see with the HRV, it tracks very clearly. You can basically see my line as soon as the drug starts to leave my system properly. You just watch my HRV just go, upwards and upwards and upwards.
Right. Heart rate variability, is that correct?
Yeah. Heart rate variability. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because I've now got like a physical graph where I can show you how much better I am without the drugs in my system. Because I spent the first 5 months this year struggling to be able to ride a bike, and that's entirely down to antidepressants.
Right.
And as I say, like, it's a very personal thing, and like what we discovered is I'm incredibly sensitive to psychiatric medication. So, which is good on one respect, because basically whatever they give me will probably work, but then I will also have a shitload of the side effects.
Yeah.
Like everything I had, for all the 3 of the drugs I took, it was true for all 3 of them. Like.
Right.
And
Jeez.
things like the antidepressants, they help. I don't want to tell people not to take antidepressants because they give you the headspace to they can give you the headspace to do it. But actually, the only thing that actually makes that's clinically proven to actually cure anxiety or properly alleviate it on a long-term basis is therapy.
Yeah.
So
what are those therapy sessions like? I'll be honest, I have seen a therapist myself. But for you, is it a case of just sitting down and talking to somebody different, or are they like working through things with you? If that makes sense.
I think I got lucky and found a very good therapist, because I actually tried to. Because one of the pieces of advice I got from an ex who actually lives with bipolar is that you don't just go to the first person you meet. You have to find someone that feels right for you.
Okay.
And I think that's an important thing, because the thing is, if you find someone you've got confidence in, it's more likely to work, obviously.
Yeah, a bit of chemistry. Yeah.
Well, for me, actually, it's more competence. Like, the 2 I spoke to, there's one guy who did a form of CBT therapy, who I got on with quite well. He seemed like a nice guy. And then there was the lady I actually went with in the end, who just seemed very professional, very knowledgeable.
Okay.
And, I found her I found that competence very reassuring. And talking to, again, going back to asking my ex about this, like, she I seem to be quite lucky to have found someone like that so early on, because for a lot of people it can be hard to find a good the right therapist.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the wonderful thing with the internet now, because I did all mine over Skype.
Oh wow, really? Huh.
Well, otherwise, here in France, how am I going to find an English-speaking therapist?
That was going to be my next question. Is there a bit of a language barrier out there where you live? But that's great. Okay, that's interesting. You found someone through Skype.
I mean, what she kind of worked quite methodically. So we started working through my entire timeline from my childhood. And then we started working on so she could fully understand me as well. It took like a month, 2 months of therapy to really get to the point where she started giving me the useful stuff I could use day to day.
Wow. Yeah.
It was going back, because some of it is like, it's talking therapy was the first thing, because it's kind of, it helps you intellectualize some of the stuff that happened to you that you maybe don't understand. Like, the stuff that happened to you in your youth and your childhood. And, if you go back to the pattern recognition thing, these things set a pattern or, an unconscious thought. And you maybe, for me, I had unpicked a lot of that stuff. So you need to go back and talking it through.
Right.
Yeah, actually intellectualizing it in the present actually helps you kind of, break some of those kind of, those destructive beliefs. And it's
yeah.
And then she did a thing called metacognitive therapy with me, which is, the whole thing is that your brain works on pathways. So like, you're set. The way she described it is you think of your brain as a cornfield.
Mm-hmm.
And so if A happens, to get to B, you follow a certain path.
Okay.
And what the idea of metacognitive therapy is that if you want to get from A to B and your current path is not a healthy one, is trying to find a way to walk a new path and create new pathways so the old ones just fall away and you have a new way of responding to things.
Yeah. No, I understand that for sure. You mentioned as well then that you found certain things that are really helping you, one of them being meditation. Is that something that the therapist suggested, or is that something you've discovered yourself?
She wasn't convinced in the beginning. She actually recommended against me doing it in the beginning.
Right.
Like, she felt it would be too inward looking for me, but I mean, the thing in the beginning, the thing with meditation was it was 20 minutes of calm.
Okay.
And that's, at a time when, if your brain's constantly going, just having 20 minutes. I mean, I realised that I've kind of been looking for that most of my life, between bicycles, drugs and booze. I've been looking for stuff that stops me thinking. It's part of the reason I fell in love with bicycles, because, you're in the moment, aren't you?
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
And meditation is one, does very similar to that, actually. It's, you just, for me, in the beginning, it's 20 minutes stepping away from it all.
And how are you doing it? Are you using an app based, or are you relatively self-taught now?
I use the Headspace app because I think certainly, I mean, I'm, still feel like I'm in the early stages, and I kind of like having, I use like the daily Headspace one where it gives you a little talk every day. And I quite like having that little talk, someone sort of talking, because occasionally there'll just be a little gem in there and you're like,
For sure. One thing I found really, really helpful is doing something like that, very similar in the morning, but also just having a little bit of time to read. Like, I read some Stoicism every morning, and I find that really helps. Like, put a few things, like you say, just every now and again, maybe once a week, you're like, little gem. But
So do you meditate then?
I'm going to say but I'm definitely one of those people that's guilty of not doing it as often as they should. Probably like 6 or 8 months ago, me and my girlfriend did a meditation course. Yeah. And that was amazing, because you went to a place in Sheffield and you had to do what they said. Yeah. Whereas I feel like, especially if you do have anxiety or you stress or whatever it is, you'll put it off because you feel it's not the most important thing to be doing at that point. And I'm guilty of that. I'll go, I should meditate for 20 minutes. And then I go, but if I do 20 minutes of emails, then I'll feel better anyway. And you never get to that point of feeling any better.
Yeah, I mean, I did that. Like, I remember trying to meditate. Well, I had some big wobbles in the summer of 2017. I remember trying to do meditation when I was struggling. And actually, the thing is, you have to do it before you're really struggling. That's kind of the gig. And then the more you do it, the less you struggle. But then it took me having a fucking nervous breakdown to kind of motivate myself to do it. So yeah. But then, I don't know, it's one of those things that the more I meditate, the more I like meditating, and also the more I like who I'm becoming with meditation.
That's amazing to hear. That's really cool. That's really cool.
You know, it's having. I mean, I in the past, I think I'm probably guilty of talking about myself too much, and I'm starting to become much more aware of that and trying to be a much better listener to my friends and my family, and not, try and to listen to people more. It's little, just you start seeing. Certainly, I've started seeing little changes like that. But
I think as well, if you do suffer with sort of anxiety and when you are trying to be present with somebody, your brain's somewhere totally different. Whereas I feel like after you've been meditating for a while, you're a bit more conscious of going, sit and listen to this person. And that's one thing that it's been a good journey with this whole podcast thing, because for me, I've got to sit here and listen to people and sort of try and follow the conversation. And I think there's definitely been, I had to just take a bit of a break from this whole thing, because I got too in my own head where I'd be sat here and I'd be thinking about this over here, tomorrow's meeting. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I also kind of believe that meditation helps on the bike.
Okay.
I feel this year, since I've been meditating, I've got better at seeing stuff when I'm riding.
That's
like I was riding one of my usual trails that I've basically been able to ride it like once recently, because like it's only had the fitness come back to go and do the loops. It's like a 30 or 35k loop, so I've just physically not been able to do it this year. And I was going down, and I could just see, I could just see where the better line was, which in the past I realised I've just been kind of charging through stuff. Whereas now I can start to hold a second. Well, if I go wide here, then, it's just that. Yeah. It's that extra kind of. It's incremental, but it's just that extra little bit of being able to kind of, visualise what you want to do as you do it, and like.
What's interesting though is a lot more athletes are using sports. Sports psychologist. Like Loic's been really vocal about having somebody in his corner who is helping with his head game. And look what he's doing now. Something's working. So I wouldn't be surprised if it is just being more present and being able to shut off the noise and just get the job done, because you've got to hand it to the guy, world champs, just as an example. You know what I mean? All the pressure on his shoulders, and he still manages to get the job done. There's something's clicking.
I mean, I remember talking to a rider I was working with a few years ago at the EWS, and he told me that he doesn't sleep on a race weekend.
Right.
And whereas if and I kind of can't help thinking now, well, if he meditated and just had that, could put the stress back away in the box a bit more and be a bit more, not be so wrapped up in all that stuff at the race weekend. Well, how much better would his racing be? And I do, I would expect to see a lot more athletes doing that, I think, in the coming years.
Yeah, I think so too. Have you experimented with cold at all, like cold therapy?
No, I don't have anywhere around me that does that.
Really?
I've done isolation tanks, which was interesting.
Wow. Okay.
That was
when I had. I've always sort of, not always, but recently, really been interested in like the Wim Hof stuff. So the cold shower in the morning.
Yeah.
Trying to just be in the cold, and I find for me that's a massive game changer, because a couple of reasons. It's like, number one, if you can conquer your own brain and get in a cold shower, that's a big tick. Like, you've won something to start the day. But secondly, it totally focuses you, because you can't really think of anything else when you're freezing cold. You're just thinking of, I'm freezing and I just need to breathe. And that's it's a meditative state you get in by just turning your shower to cold.
Yeah, that's
it's crazy. Like, I had Matt McDuff on here a while back, and me and Matt, we geeked out on it for ages before we even did a podcast together. But he really he made a massive change, I think, with a lot of people who listen to this podcast, because there were so many people trying cold showers and reaching out to say that they've enjoyed it and that this and that and the other. But for me, I need it now. Prime example, if I'm stressed, my go-to now is cold bath or cold shower. I've got it set up in the garden now, where I just turn the hose on and it's just a shower head. Just stand under there for a few minutes, and game changer.
I hate cold water. I may have to try that though.
Mate, honestly, it's I mean, I couldn't go into the science of it or anything like that, but I know for me that, and that's often what it is. It's just somebody giving you a little tip and going, I have got a shower. I can just turn it to cold every morning for a minute or two, and game changer. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Although I did go a little bit deep recently when I spent 50 minutes in Loch Ness and nearly died.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah, that was a bit of a game changer as well for me. I think I need, in a way, are you aware of that, what happens with that? So, me and a couple of friends were on a canoe trip. And it's funny, actually, because right up until going to that, I needed to go because I knew I was in a mess. You know, I was having crazy anxiety. I was stressed out. I was not sleeping. And I was like, I need to get away with my friends on a trip where there's no phone reception and you're just going to disconnect. So we did it. It's called the Caledonian Canal. And you basically start at Fort William and then you work your way across canal and locks to Inverness. It's like a 5-day trip. Day 3, long story, very short. We fell in the water in Loch Ness. So canoe capsized about 1.5 kilometres from each side, so we were fucked basically. So again, very long story short, I ended up getting airlifted out after being in there for 50 minutes. Kidney failure, hypothermic, all that sort of stuff.
Shit.
But in a way though, I'm kind of, man, this is weird, but like kind of thankful it happened now, because I had a week after of just sorting my head out, because I needed that shake up of being like, right, stop getting so stressed out, stop getting so anxious, try and just like chill things out a little bit. But yeah, it was a bit of a life-changing thing that happened this year, man, to be fair. Didn't expect that to be happening at all.
No, that's great, fair play.
Yeah, we did like a whole episode about it, and that was one of the reasons I reached out to you about this, was me and 2 friends, we just sat down and we just spoke about mental health and how, you know, at the end of the day, we all almost died. We all had really different experiences because we all thought each other had died. And we just sat and we recorded, and it was just nothing about bikes, to be honest with you, dude. It was just about like just mental health and like how these things affect you. And it's cool. Like a lot of good things have come from it as well. Like I'm running a marathon in a couple of weeks to raise money for the RNLI because they saved my life. So but yeah, it was, you know, slightly off topic, I know, but that's the extremes of cold exposure.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like day-to-day stress, like I actually think it's the little things that are important. Because one of the things that, like, I mean, what I saw in a lot of the response to my article is people are saying go and ride your bike, which is good. You know, don't get me wrong, like I'm a much saner, happier person when I'm riding my bike.
Yeah.
But what happens when you can't ride your bike? And I do think a lot of what happened to me is, you know, a lot of what part of the reason my mental health went down last year was because I went through a phase between illness and tiredness and stress and stuff that I wasn't riding my bike.
For sure. And I think as well for people who don't have a job like yours or like mine, that can't get on the bike, that are stuck in an office with just a few four walls in a cubicle, you know, 7 till 7 at night. That's, you know, it's that as well, isn't it? It's like, it's all right saying, just go ride your bike, but once a week ain't going to cut it.
No, it's, you know, and for me, like, you know, things like I know I've got some of my mentality completely wrong. Like, I remember thinking last year, I should do, I want to go and do yoga now. Oh, I'm not going to do yoga, I feel shit. Yeah. When actually that's completely the wrong way around. It's like, I feel shit, I should go and do yoga.
For sure.
And like, the habit I've hardwired into myself since last winter, is walking. Like I've got a 3 kilometre block around my house, and I will walk that once or twice every single day now.
Right.
You know, unless I do like a decent bike ride, I'll make sure I go, because like it's about 40 minutes. So I ended up doing about an hour and a half walking a day some days. You know, but it's like the effect of just doing that 40-minute walk. You know, it's like, because I got myself in this mentality last year that, you know, if I wasn't going out on the bike and going hard, it wasn't really worth doing. It didn't count. It didn't have any value. So,
got you.
You know,
got you.
So I just had this period where I just sat on the sofa day after day after day, and it's like.
And were you working at the same time, or?
It was between photo shoots and that. So it's like, you know, you'd have my work tends to be peaks and troughs. I mean, it's kind of one of the tensions between Pinkbike and photography, because photography's peaks and troughs where, you know, you've got a short period of quite high stress and then a longer period of low stress, and then, you know, it kind of, whereas Pinkbike was just like, it's a constant level. I do kind of think you have to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, I think trying to mix the two, I don't know, I feel like for me at least, trying to mix the two different types of stress was part of the reason why I fucked myself up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't. The benefit. Every day just walking. Like this afternoon, I've kind of felt a bit shit all day today. And so before we had this call, I've kind of struggled. So I've kind of a bit sick as well. So I sort of sat on the sofa this morning. But I made sure this afternoon I went out and did my walk. And,
Good,
I'll probably walk again after dinner as well, just to.
That's cool. And again, it's that win, isn't it, in your brain? Like, no, I've conquered that. My brain was saying, just chill in the house. But no, like we were saying about meditation, isn't it? It's your brain's going to be telling you all the time, all these little reasons, like, don't do it now, do it in an hour, do it in an hour. And sometimes that hour never comes. It's just.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing I realised, like say earlier on with meditation, it's learning. It's not just enough to do it. It's a lot. You have to learn the behaviour.
Yeah.
So for me, it took a while. It takes a while for it to sink in, and I've still got a bit of an ambivalent relationship with yoga at the moment. I find it a bit hard to get my head right to do yoga.
Okay.
I had a few bad experiences at the start of the year where I'd be alone. Because you're kind of alone with your thoughts in yoga, aren't you?
I guess, yeah. Would you do a class, or are you just doing it at home?
I just do it at home.
With Adrian?
Who?
Yoga with Adrian on YouTube.
What the fuck's yoga with Adrian?
Oh, dude, you're missing out. Yoga with Adrian on YouTube. She is a smoke show, and she's really good at yoga. She's a Canadian girl, I believe. And she does these whole classes you can just do on YouTube.
Okay, so I've just kind of I had a Yoga Glow subscription a few years ago and learned a couple of classes, and I just do them kind of on my own tempo now.
Yeah,
it's quite light, but
Yoga with Adrian, top tip.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look for that. Yeah, because the thing was doing it on my own, with my own thoughts. I had a few experiences at the start of the year where I went to quite a dark place while I was doing it, and then it's you become reticent to do it, and I've not quite broken that connection yet. I've not quite. For me, walking and meditation are very strongly associated with feeling better.
Yeah.
Whereas yoga is, I know it's better and I feel better when I do it, but I've still got. It's that thing, there's a evolutionary response to food poisoning. If you get food poisoning, the thing you ate before it will always stick in your head, and yeah.
It's like if you throw up on vodka Red Bulls, you'll never touch a Red Bull ever again in your life, sort of thing. It's exactly. I think it gives people the shivers when you say that. Jaeger bomb, you're like, oh god, brutal.
Oh no, that's. See, vodka Red Bull. When I was at uni, there was a thing called Vodball nights.
Oh god.
And it was £1 a shot for vodka Red Bull. And I only ever went to one. I remember getting there at 8:30. People were all being stretched out at 8:30,
just with heart palpitations.
Genuinely, I don't
cheap
know.
Vodka and Red Bull. Oh,
I really struggle with all those high caffeine products. I remember when I was young and I was going clubbing, and there was one Saturday night we all got a taxi from my village, a group of us, and went to the next town over to go to a club. And we were all into our kind of pills at that point, and so, but there was a guy who came with us. He's like, I'd never do drugs. He's got this thing in his head, and it's fair enough. Whatever makes you happy. But then he drank 15 Red Bulls in the night.
Jesus.
And we got the taxi back. We've all taken we'd all taken Class A drugs, and he was more fucked up than the rest of us in the taxi home.
It's so true. Do you fuck with coffee, or do you stay away from it?
I'm a tea. I like tea.
Yeah. Okay.
If I'm in Italy, I'll drink coffee, but generally, I find coffee too harsh in the morning. I need a litre of good, strong Assam to get me started.
Okay, fair. Okay.
So, no,
I was just curious, because I've just taken a bit of a coffee detox because I was drinking way too much of it, and it definitely wasn't helping my mental health.
I stopped drinking caffeine for 3-4 months. I've kind of gone back onto it, but I've also realised the way I drink my tea is quite low caffeine.
Okay.
Because I use a pot, but I'll brew the pot for 20-30 minutes, so it's super strong.
Yeah.
But then there's not a huge amount of tea in there, so the caffeine content's relatively low.
Okay.
I had a couple of espressos in the morning, and I was just shaking.
Yeah, dude, it's so bad sometimes. I think my habit was to sort of get up in the morning, have a coffee, usually a bulletproof. You're aware of that? So with like butter in it
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
I started looking. Yeah.
So I'd do that, and then I'd stop on the way out to my first appointment, wherever that was, at Starbucks, and get another coffee. So by like 9 a.m, I'm too deep, and then every bike shop I visit says to you, "Do you want a coffee?" And you're like, "Yeah, go on then." So by the end of the day, you've had 6, and I'd just be like a jittery mess. So I've just totally cut it out.
Have you seen the sleep graphs for caffeine? I think I don't know if it's Dr. Matt Walker who did it.
He was awesome when he was on Wragg, wasn't he? Did you hear that?
I tend to not listen to sleep experts because it just tends to stress me out at the moment. Because the problem at the moment is I'm still not sleeping that deeply after the antidepressants. So it's like I know I'm doing everything, but I know I'm not getting like all the real deep. I don't sleep quite as deeply as I feel like I should be.
Got you.
And I know things like there's Alzheimer's implications and stuff like that, but I just don't. I don't want to.
Don't even think about it because it makes you stress more when you try to get to bed. That makes sense.
I'm doing everything I should be right. Like switching this. I generally put my phone off at 6 or 7 in the evening. Brilliant. I try and have at least 45 minutes without screens before bed.
Yeah.
But also, if you look, going back to the caffeine graphs, it's like I try not to have caffeine 12 hours before we go to bed now.
Amazing.
Because you actually look and there's still an effect.
Yeah. I'm pretty guilty right now for having like a cup of tea and then going to bed, which is probably terrible for you. And sleep's important, man. Like sleep's so important. People overlook that. It's huge.
I mean, take it from someone who's I've not really had. Actually, I slept okay last night, but generally, like since October, November last year, I don't think I've had a night with a solid 8 hours since.
Wow.
For one reason or another, it's like, it's fine now, but it's still like, it's something. If I let it, I could get really frustrated by it and a bit upset by it because it's like, it's just it just feels like it's going on and on and on, and it's like
you just got to go with it. I think, can't you? Sometimes I think. When I had Todd Mayan on this podcast, he said something quite interesting, and I can't quite paraphrase it, I don't think, but it was something along the lines of, he sometimes struggles with some anxiety and stuff, and he sort of said, sometimes I just have to embrace it and just go along with it and try not to stress about it. And I thought that's actually a good way of looking at it, because once you feel those things, those thought patterns come into play, you start maybe overanalyzing it. And he was saying, I'll just write it down, whatever's on my brain, and I'll just try and forget about it. I mean, I don't know if that's...
No.
Seems to make sense.
Yeah, I mean, whatever works, really. I mean, I think the thing for me is, so I just don't try not to think about it too much. And if I actually take a step back and look objectively, I've got enough energy to be cheerful every day and do what I want to do. So really, it's the perfectionism thing again. It's like I'm actually getting good enough sleep, but it's not perfect. It's trying to let go of that, trying to. But
amazing. All right, man. Well, it's been fucking cool just to sit and chat, to be honest.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Podcast should be done, right? I want to say massive thank you for being so open as well and being willing to sit and do this. Some people no doubt will find value in listening to our conversation, which is what this is all about. So thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time out as well. I know you were saying before you weren't really feeling it, but it's been nice, man, just to sit and chat and get to know each other as well a little bit. It's been cool.
It's been good fun.
We'll have to
Thanks,
we'll have to catch up properly at some point.
Yeah, we're giving the South of France come pedal some bikes.
I will do. Don't worry. Don't worry. But no, man. Really, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for writing the article on Pinkbike and being so open as well. It's cool. I think it's a testament to your character and how far you've come on this whole journey. So, props and appreciate it. Thank you for doing this. If people do want to follow you, like you on the Instagram and stuff,
I'm on Instagram. I've actually deleted the rest of my social media because
amazing.
That's another one we should have got into because
let's do it.
I'm not okay.
I've got time. I'm gravy.
It's just one of those things. Like I realise social media has just a negative impact on my mental health. Like I've deleted my Facebook. I've stopped using Twitter, and I've taken Instagram off my telephone now.
Amazing.
I still have Instagram for business because I kind of feel with my job I should have an Instagram account, but if it wasn't for that, I'd probably have got rid of that too.
This is interesting. Yeah, mate, I'm in exactly the same boat. So a while ago, I got rid of Facebook off my phone.
Yeah.
I don't really ever. I have to now physically log into it. I always make sure I log out. 9 times out of 10, I forget the password anyway. There's a massive problem with people spending way too much time on the phone and comparing their life with other people's. You know, we know that.
Oh.
But there's also this huge issue of people chasing likes and all this bullshit. And it's weird because, like you just said, you almost need it if you have your own business or you're running, a brand or anything. So I do handle quite a lot of social media accounts, and I have been very guilty in the past of chasing it and wanting likes and comments and all that bullshit. And honestly, like, from the bottom of my heart now, I could tell you that it's nice, but I really don't care. And I've taken a real backseat, even with the podcast thing. I've been like, I'm not going to play the game of following people, unfollowing people, liking, commenting on things.
Yeah.
With the podcast stuff, I only ever follow people that have been on the podcast or that are sort of a sponsor if we ever have them, or any media outlets. I follow those. But other than that, if you find it, great. If you don't, no problem at all. But there's definitely a really, really unhealthy relationship that some people have with social media, and like you said before, going on it at night when you should be winding down and going to sleep. I think the major thing though is people comparing their lives with other people's. I think that's a massive, massive problem, and that this generation now, man, that's coming through, the young kids, it must be awful. I mean, we're both lucky. What are you, 30 odd, 38, something like that?
30. I'm 37 tomorrow.
37. Happy birthday for tomorrow, man. But we're that generation. I'm 32, so we came up younger when we didn't have all this stuff. And it must be, I don't know, man. I can't even put myself in the position of a young kid now coming through and having to rely on this stuff.
Well, it's one of the arguments that I've started listening to. Actually, I listened to the 10% Happier podcast, which is quite interesting if you're into meditation.
Yeah. I've heard of that one, but I've never checked it out. But I'll put it on the list.
I mean, I think you have to be into meditation, but occasionally there's just a few gems on there that I quite like. But they're talking about teaching kids mindfulness. Yeah. Because it's one thing I've noticed is, I've actually noticed it recently. Even though I've pulled back, is like I'll come and sit on Instagram for 20 minutes in the morning, and I noticed that I'll look what other photographers are doing, and I'm like, oh shit, they got a contract with so-and-so. Why am I not? And it's that little bit of like, if when I'm left on my own devices, completely devoid of social media, I realise that I'm pretty okay where I am with work. I've got, it was a big risk for me because basically last year I had to stop work completely, and I figured the only way to keep my client list is to phone them all and explain what was happening, which was actually quite a beautiful experience. It was far more understanding than
I bet, yeah.
There was a lot of love and understanding speaking to my clients, which was quite a wonderful experience. And hopefully, things are going to pick back up. It's not going to be overnight, but I'm from the conversation I've had with people, I'm reasonably confident I'm going to pick back up with a fairly, a client list I'm quite excited about. So in isolation it's fine. I'm quite excited about what's going. It feels very positive, and then I'll sit on social media for 20 minutes. And I'll see so and so shot something, and and you start, and there's a bit of it. It's like, oh well, shit. Well, maybe I could have got that project, or why am I not trying to work with that?
Definitely.
And I'd come away, and I noticed that I'm dissatisfied. I feel a bit, I feel more anxious about my own work, and I feel more dissatisfied with what's going on. And it's purely kind of contrived.
Yeah. It is. But we're so you talk about pathways before. We're so. Now it's as soon as you're bored for more than 5 seconds, you pick your phone up and you look at it, and it's really important to be bored sometimes, to just sit and think, or go for a walk or whatever.
One of the best pieces I got advice for like how to deal with social media was from Gustav Larsson.
Okay.
Who actually, if you want to talk to someone, Gustav is one of the most interesting human beings I've ever spoke to.
Really?
He's
okay.
Genuinely he's. Very, very unique human being, and but he was telling me that what he does is like he limits himself to doing the one thing. Right. So because you know how it is, like you sit there in front of the TV, you pick your phone up, and the TV's still going. You've got your phone in your hand. Yeah. And actually, basically, you have to start having that the discipline that if you're going to watch TV, you just watch TV. If you want to, if you want to look at your phone, you stop the TV, turn the TV off, get the phone out. And when you start doing that, you start becoming more aware quite quickly of how much time you're actually doing that. Like,
I think if you have like an iPhone now, you can look at, it'll tell you how much time you spent on social media, and it is worrying. If anyone who like open your phone now and just look, and you just go, what? I've spent 3 hours today. God, I could do a lot in 3 hours. I could do a hell of a lot in 3 hours. But again, there's this fine balance. And the way I've managed to make it work is, well, they call it post and drop, basically. So you post them and you just drop your phone and you just go, right, that's it. If I'll check it in an hour or whatever. But again, it depends, doesn't it? Because if you want that post to get seen by more people, you need to sit there and comment back to anything or...
Isn't there like a score for like how quickly you respond to posts? Is like 100%. How high it goes up?
100%.
I mean, this is
so. If you see most posts that come up as like a recommended post, it's because someone they've posted it, and then everyone who's commented, they've commented back, and it obviously then the algorithm picks up that this must be an interesting post, and it makes it more appealing, and it makes it more noticeable.
I mean, I noticed so on Instagram that I'm losing followers. Partly I'm not doing the racing, so I guess I'm not, in people's minds as much. When I was on Pinkbike doing the EWS every week, I guess it was a lot more prominent. But also, like, when Instagram started, it's just like if you just kept posting good images, people would see it. But I mean, I can find the point in about 2016 maybe where they switched the algorithm, and suddenly I lost like 50 to 70% of my engagement overnight.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And you know what?
And now it's basically you have to pay if you want something to be seen. That top and bottom of it is you've got to be paying.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Facebook. If you're not paying, no one's going to see your shit. And it's sometimes it's a total waste of time. And it's funny, I was joking with my girlfriend about this the other day. I was saying, and I'll relate this just to the podcast because I think that's the best way to relate it. But I was saying, wouldn't it be cool if there was like no social media for it at all? So the only way people could find out about this podcast is like purely word of mouth. Yeah. And there's no way of following it. There's no way of knowing what guests come in or what new episodes out. It just happens. I was like, that'd be pretty sick. But then if you want to, I don't know, if you actually want to get sponsors and stuff like that, they don't want it to be silent, like under the radar. No. But that's the thing. So you're always playing this game of like how to stay relevant, constantly sort of keeping it going so it doesn't fall out of an algorithm, but not finding yourself spending 5 hours a day on your phone. And I do that for 5 accounts, and it's sometimes a little bit much, mate. To be fair.
I can imagine. I had a realization that if I start looking at how much of my work comes from social media, how much business has Instagram ever actually bought me. I've sold a few posts, but generally, most of the money I've earned from Instagram is when people have stolen my photos and I've sent them invoices for breach of copyright.
Really? Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, But again, with us and the distribution company side of it, there is a massive correlation between promoting a product through Instagram and it's selling.
Yeah.
And we're a small company, so it's not like we can take our eye off the ball with that stuff because it keeps the lights on. Do you know what I mean? It genuinely does. Yeah. So you have to do it. And as soon as you stop doing it, you notice that, we pretty much only sell to the trade, but it seems to back off. It seems to, or people don't ask, I saw that thing on Instagram that you're doing, or that new product, I saw that on Instagram. So it's strange that we've become so reliant on it. But I think the big thing is it's just the personal stuff, isn't it? It's like not relating your life to it, if that makes sense. I
became quite private. Even when I had Facebook a few years ago, I stopped putting my private life on. The main reason I deleted it because I realised, there was nothing good on it anymore. There was a point a few years ago where people stopped posting their private lives on Facebook, and it was just it's all just groups and pages and brands you see now, and it's
just a big advert. It's funny if you get your phone and you scroll down, it's like 2 posts, advert, 2 posts, advert. It's like fucking hell. It's a bit much, isn't it? And
I started by deactivating my Facebook account for a month or whatever, and I realised nothing had changed.
No.
I wasn't.
No.
There's no difference. So then I deleted it. And I also think it's better. I also think coming off social media is actually better for having real relationships with people.
Dude, 100%. I love in your Skype thing, it says something along the lines of, I hate Skype. If you've got my number, call me, or something like that. That's what your Skype says that. And it's so true. I hate it as well, dude. Like, I don't really like text messages. I'm not really a massive email fan. It's like, if you want me, just call me on the phone. And at the weekend, I switch over to a small Nokia phone, which all you can do is call people. Dude, next level. It's so good. Just like, if you want me, Saturday and Sunday, you have to call me.
I've got an 8210.
Have you?
So.
Balling.
Yeah.
It's cool though, isn't it? It's so good.
No, it's I mean, I think the thing that really put me off Skype is, like, I remember doing a project for a client in 2014. And it's before they'd start. I think you can restrict notifications a lot more now. But back then there was no. It was on all the time. You couldn't switch it off. So it was on your phone. You could always get the messages. So, like,
right.
You know, like, I remember trying to have some time off, and, like, I look at my phone and there's three clients trying to get hold of me at 9 o'clock in the evening, and you're like, really? You know? But then you kind of feel like, you know, then you feel like you ought to, because, I mean, the client I was dealing with at the time was a client I was really excited to be working for. So I'm like, well, shit, well, I better do this now, and you know, and so. I mean, it's better now, I guess. You've got a lot more control over your privacy, but
Definitely.
Still, it's like...
Yeah, but still, I feel like those patterns are almost in place with a lot of people. It's like, okay, you can turn off all your notifications, but if you open the app every half an hour, you might as well just have notifications on stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's... Yeah, I guess
it's a strange
so.
world, bro. It's strange the way it's going. It's really scary.
I think the thing is, people don't take time away, and that's actually when you kind of... Because I started doing it a few years ago, because my wife works as a teacher, and so she just had the weekends off, and so my weekend time became much more important, because that was my time with my wife.
Yeah.
And so I'd start turning my phone off all weekend, because no one calls you anyway these days, so Yeah. But I'd turn my phone off all weekend, and, like, the first day it feels really weird.
Yeah.
And then the sort of second, or I say second, third day, maybe a bit more than a weekend, but you do it for a few days, and you don't feel it. The thing is, you don't actually think like you feel any different. The thing you notice is when you turn the phone back on, you realise how quickly you suddenly start to feel worse, and it's really alarmingly quickly, like the kind of the return of that underlying anxiety and tension.
Definitely. You know what? We were talking about when I nearly died a few months ago. There was the week after it was probably the most present and chilled I've ever felt. A couple of reasons. I said to my two business partners, I'm out for a week, deal with everything. I can't cope. I've just nearly died. I'm a mess. My body's broken. And I didn't even look at a phone for like 5 days, 6 days. I didn't watch TV, nothing. I just laid in bed. And I've never felt so present in my entire life. It felt like being a child again, where you've got no responsibility and there's no anxiety from people constantly trying to get to you. Like, it was really nice. Like, and I keep thinking about that time, because it was. I'd like to have that feeling again, but not nearly die before getting it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, probably better.
But,
but no, I think it's people. It's underrated the importance of disconnecting, and I mean, as I say, like, I think. It didn't work in the long term, obviously, but I think that practice of like regular disconnection is like I think we need that. I think that's our brains weren't evolved to handle all this information all the time. It's it's basic.
I don't know about you, but I always have that feeling. So if I just turn my phone off, there's always that feeling of but what if something's happened, and that gone.
That passes though. That's the thing. Like it takes a day or two, but it goes away.
Right.
And that's like when I'd have those like weekend detoxes or whatever. Or that first day, I felt you feel like you're missing out, and then you realise after a few days, or as you say, if you've got a Nokia when.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I had it. What I had actually was I had a French pay-as-you-go SIM card, so I had my UK number, which all my clients had, with all the social media on, and then I had a phone that only like. People, no business contact had the number, so I had a completely separate phone on a pay-as-you-go. And so the only people that could possibly call me were my friends and my family.
Yeah. That's exactly what mine is. That's the only people that have that number. Yeah, same. Well, I divert the calls to it. Sorry, but stored in it is only friends and family. So if I need to get hold of someone, it's not going to happen. But that's again just that feeling of, oh, what if something happens to your mum or dad, or do you know what I mean? I don't know. I like the idea of it just being totally disconnected, but I also like if someone needs me. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think the minimal connection's like the best possible compromise, because I think. Yeah, I mean, certainly my parents are an age where I'm starting to worry about them.
Yeah. And it's weird though, because you have those pathways of like picking your phone up. So I'd just take the Nokia somewhere and I'd be sat there, and that boredom feeling had come up, and I'm like, oh, I'll play Snake. And then you're like, what the fuck are you doing? You're totally like, that is not what you should be doing. You should just be ignoring everything. Oh, I'll listen to Snake. Play Snake. Like, no, idiot, that's not the point.
I mean, I had quite a beautiful moment recently as I've kind of got a bit more experience. No, a bit more experience with the meditation. I was in the doctor's surgery, and I had to sit there and wait. Basically, what they do in the afternoons is they have a no appointment afternoon where everyone can just go in and get an appointment that afternoon, but you might have to wait a couple of hours. And I just sit there, and I was like sitting there like, I'm a bit bored now, so I actually started going through the meditation.
Nice.
And I don't know, I kind of zoned out. I don't know how long I sat there, but I just, went into that kind of meditative state. And it was actually like, the doctor came through. I kind of got pulled back by the doctor coming through. But it was actually really quite beautiful. And I realised, like, I've not done it again since. I need to kind of get back to that moment, because it was quite beautiful, I think.
Just been present.
Or you just go somewhere and just sit and just, you can go. Well, I just went off and followed my breath, basically. And that was, and I realised that'd be if you can just be in a situation and just switch yourself off and relax wherever you are, no matter what's going on, you just go, okay, I'm just going to stop now.
Yeah.
That's a fucking superpower if you can do that.
Dude, it is. And I always think that about, like, like our parents, for example. So my dad, if my dad goes somewhere and he's early, let's say he's an hour early, he doesn't sit and look at his phone because he ain't got one.
Yeah.
He's got like an old Nokia. He has got an iPhone now, I'll be honest, but he doesn't know how to go on anything. He just calls people and text messages. So I always think that about, the older generation of just being able to just sit in a car maybe and just be present and be like, oh, I've got to wait here for an hour. I'll just sit and think for a bit. Whereas most our generation, especially the younger ones, phone out, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is these days, Snapchat, dick pics, I don't know. But
oh God.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I often think about that. It's like, it must be really nice to not have that pathway of, oh, I'm bored, pick something electronic up and play with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's but it's also like I think that not having that boredom stifles creativity.
100%. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Yeah, I think if you're disconnecting more often, you're allowing those creative juices to come up a little bit more. Like one thing I did when I was laid in bed basically for a week is I just wrote stuff down. I just journaled.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was such a liberating experience to just sit and journal and just think about shit. But again, it's rare that people have that opportunity to do that, I think. Especially if you've, after going through something quite traumatic, so you're in a bit of a weird space anyway. It was nice.
But I do think, I see this, in people that, like, when they do have time off, they feel they have to fill it with things because, like, and actually, there seems to be, like, my brother does that a lot. Like, if he's got time off, he kind of, a lot of the time he feels like he has to be doing something. But then I guess maybe it's a luxury from my life, that I have enough time to do nothing.
True. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't want to give up photography, because the dirty secret is that, the way the work works, you have to do your work and you have to work hard, but I get more free time to be at home and do the things I love than most people. And I mean, I actually...
That's very valuable. Very, very valuable.
Well, I remembered something Cedric Gracia told me years ago, because he was saying, like, he went into his garage and he had all the bikes hanging up. And he's like, this is a rich person's problem. If you can go and see, just go and decide which bike am I going to ride today. And you know what? I mean, admittedly, Cedric's a bit closer to being actually rich than I am. But,
yeah, he had to move his Ferrari out of the way before looking at the bikes. But
yeah, he's a clever boy, though.
Yeah,
He actually explained to me a few years ago some of his investment things and, like, the way he was, like, making money on importing cars and stuff. And that he's I think he hides it a lot, but he's a very clever boy actually when he gets down to it. But, like, I went downstairs and, like, you know, partly thanks to my work, because, you know, between Pinkbike and having clients and contacts and stuff, you know, I don't know. See, I need to stop and work out how many bikes I have. I can't just tell you how, you know.
Amazing.
I think I have 6 bikes at the moment.
Amazing.
But I've got, you know, and that's the thing, I've got 6 bikes and I have enough time to make the most of it. Well, I don't ride the pump track bike that much because all the pump tracks are too far away.
Right.
But, you know, I've got 5 bikes and enough time to actually get the most out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck it, you know.
That is very, very valuable. Very lucky.
But it was also, I guess that was also part of the pressure though before, because it's like, you know, I think I wrote the story that like realizing you're doing something where you know, people don't get this chance. This is fucking exceptional to get the chance to live like this and do, you know, I can live in the mountains, do something I love and ride bikes most days. And how many people would cut parts of their body off to do that? You know,
a lot.
I'm genuinely really fucking. I don't like the word lucky, to be honest. Actually,
well, you make your own luck, but you're in a fortunate position, I think. But you've made the fortunate position.
But blessed, that's the hashtag, isn't it?
Blessed. Hashtag blessed.
Yeah. But it was also, but that was also part of the guilt when I started struggling, though.
Right.
You know,
yeah, no, I feel you, mate, 100%. Like, yeah, you feel like you don't deserve it, and that, like I said before, as soon as you take your foot off the gas, it's going to go away.
Well, no, the thing is, I had something wonderful and I wasn't enjoying it, and that's, you know, then that, it's the kind of British guilt thing, isn't it? It's like,
a couple of years ago when we first started this business, the distribution stuff, I wasn't riding at all, nothing. I didn't ride. I barely touched the bike. And the reason for that is I was so stressed out from running the business, which I wanted because it was meant to be a lifestyle business, that I viewed a bike as stress. So when I got home in the evening at 7 p.m. or whatever it might be, I didn't want to see a bike. I wanted to go do something totally different and just disconnect from everything. And that, a lot of people probably don't understand that, because not many people have that problem. But my issue is literally, I've been talking about bikes all day. I'm stressed out because I've got a bike distribution company, and I see that now as a stressful thing to be doing. And it's only really recently, like we were talking before about doing the new Behind the Bike episodes, that I'm sort of finding this love again of like, oh, this is why we started doing this, because you can go riding all over, for me, the UK. I can ride anywhere because I go to a shop there and then go ride the local trails with the people and whatever. And I'm only now just starting to go, oh yeah, this is why we did this is why we started this business again. But yeah. I mean,
that always worried me about working in the bike industry, that I'd lose that love. But for me, it's never had that issue. But then I'm kind of odd with how I ride bikes. Like I've noticed, like between me and my wife, like we're quite different to how we want to ride a bike. For me, I'm not so much worried about where I am. What I love is like, it's the actual riding of the bike. I love trying to do things perfectly to try and make it feel right.
Yeah.
Whereas my wife wants to take the bike to take her places, to see things and to do things. Whereas I just what I've always loved is that feeling. I mean, I'm quite an awkward and clumsy man, basically. I've got hammers for hands and like 2 left feet. And, you know, I've just kind of smashed and stumbled my way through this life, and you know, somehow I've not been killed by some horribly tragic and comic accident by now. But I can get on a bike, and there are moments. I mean, my friends will tell you there's moments when I do still just kind of plough through stuff. I'm not always the most subtle of others, but there are moments when I feel graceful on a bike, and that instant is, for me, that's everything. Like
that's what we live for.
You know, you know, all this chasing all over the world for that. It's like I've realised, like, as much as it's wonderful to go to new places, but I'm as happy at home in the woods behind the house as I am going down a New Zealand mountainside. Almost, it's like you know, it's that. You know, for me, that's the thing. That's the love. And
that's awesome. I think so many people relate to that as well.
Yeah, the bike is, it's just that, nothing else in this life has ever given me that feeling and that freedom. Like, you know, I can't I can't kick a football where I want it to go. I can't, you know.
No.
But you know, there are moments when, it just feels right,
dude.
And
hyped.
Yeah,
that's a great way to wrap up. If that's cool.
Yeah,
we're at like
that is
2 hours 40 minutes.
Oh Jesus!
Of just chatting. That's cool, man. Totally fine. Amazing.
My wife warned me that I can talk a lot of shit before we did this. So sorry about that.
Exactly what we want, mate. It's exactly what we want. Amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect way to wrap up. And again, I know I started saying it before, but thank you so much for being open and honest and sharing some experiences, dude. Like it's been cool, really cool. And anytime you want to come and do this, just ask, sit and rip it.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
No problem.
It's been good.
Yeah,
cool.
For sure. All right, man. Well, I'm going to go eat some dinner. I am starving, and I still need to go to the shop, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But again, thank you, dude. And at Matt Wragg on Instagram, if anyone does want to follow you.
It's at Matt_Wragg, because at Matt Wragg is some little scrote from Nottingham who tried to sell me his handle.
You little shit.
yeah, he wanted money for it. The worst thing is he's probably related to me, because like my family's from Nottingham, so like there's like a
long lost cousin.
He sent me a message going, you ought to buy my handle from me. It's like, nah, mate, not going to happen.
Gee, he's not that bothered.
I'll live with an underscore.
Thanks again, dude. Really appreciate it, and have a good one.
Thanks for having me on. It's been fun. Cheers,
dude. Bye. And there you have it, guys and gals. Another Secret Sessions episode in the bag for you. I thoroughly enjoyed recording this one, and I hope you enjoyed listening. If you did, please share the episode with your friends. You guys sharing episodes and telling people about it is what helps this podcast grow. There's no money getting exchanged in regards to advertising or anything like that, so it's word of mouth. This is the people's podcast. So if you're still listening here, take a screenshot, put it in your Instagram stories, tag me at the Hook It Podcast, and also if you want to tag Matt at Matt_Wragg, not the scrote in Nottingham. We've got the marathon coming up, so again, if you have enjoyed listening to any of these podcast episodes, or you can just spare a little bit of money, please, there is a link in the show description to donate. If you can also share that page between your friends, that also would go a long way. Last but not least, if you want to grab yourself a bargain, hookitproducts.co.uk, enter the promo code podcast. We'll get you 10% off anything and everything on the website. Or just ask for Hook It products in your local bike shop. That also would be incredible if you could do that. And that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your week, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for listening. Peace out. Go ride your bike.